This is Ken Bone, and I never listen to None Taken.
And we're live.
We are live. I don't mean to spoil the big story from my personal life, but there's a living
behind you.
Behind me. Yeah. Let me turn the mic up and see if we can pick up this sound. This is This is thrilling audio. This is the sound of a kitten making biscuits in their adorable little cat bed behind me.
Cute as fuck.
Yes. Welcome to the world. Pompey the cat, which is a pun off of Pompey the Great, the general of the triumvirate. Well, Caesar and Crassus were generals too, but okay, Crassus was an excellent general. Ask how things went in Parthia. But yeah. Like two people listening, like James is punching the air right now. Like those Parthians, man, they're excellent horse archers. What is it? Horse soldiers. Anyway, that's not the point. I got a cat.
That's the point. The point is you got a cat. It is
he's
cute
back there making biscuits in his bed.
Yeah, he's so cute.
What are you doing, Pompey? In the morning, I put him on my chest, and he makes biscuits in my beard.
Oh,
cute! It's the cutest thing. I've always wanted to have a kitten, and it just makes me so happy to have a cat. Because, like, I've been telling Natasha for years, when are we going to get a cat?
Right, totally. That's exactly how I remember you talking about it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. You had to sell her on it. I remember you were working hard.
Tolerate any other revision to this history. I want to ask you to do some Googling, which I believe will come up on your Google machine as well. You can just copy and paste this right here. How many hours of sleep does a person do in a lifetime?
Oh, okay.
So my brother sent that to me because he was like stoned and being curious. Not my ass brother, the other one. I never talk about.
229,900.
No, stop it. Does Google give you a little like sample answer? Like it's a breakout, like community notes type? Okay. Read the whole thing.
On average, a person sleeps for about 229,961 hours in their lifetime, which is roughly 1/3 of their life. This is based on the assumption that a person sleeps for 8 hours per day. The recommended amount of sleep varies by age group. 3 to 5 years, 10 to 13 hours per 20.
Dog, is Google fucking up my show open? This better have a punchline at the end. Keep going.
6 to 12 years, 9 to 12 hours, 13 to 18, 8 to 10, adults 7 or more a night. Some studies have found that sleeping fewer than 7 hours or more than 9 hours per night may increase the risk of death from all causes.
That's your whole answer. That's the whole Google result.
Oh, I see now down here. That's precious time which could have been spent watching Die Hard 105,325 times. That's a random fact to put in there. I like it though.
I want all large time measurements broke down as to like how many times you could watch Die Hard.
Right.
Yeah. And I was about to get real pissed off at the internet. Instead, I'm just mad at my co-host. So what's new, you know?
I was reading what it put in front of me. How many diehards would it take to get to Mars? That
was the exact thought I had. I was like, yeah, it's like, well, it's like, 3 years Mars. How many is that in diehards? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly, sir.
Exactly, sir.
Yeah, there we go. I do have a clip to open the show.
Okay. You're excited about this clip. You talked about it a little bit.
I did.
I think in the pre-show. Oh, maybe that's not this clip. I don't know.
That's not this clip. No, okay. I have a bunch up here though that are really fun, but this one I feel like is just such a great show open. Okay. Let's click this one so I can share it, and then we will do a show proper. Shall we?
Let's.
If I snap my fingers, you'll forget that you were ever gay.
I was never gay.
Exactly.
Wait, no, stop.
Yes.
No, stop. You can't. I was never gay.
Okay.
No, I was never gay.
Sure.
You can't just state something, then snap your fingers, and then be like, I was never gay.
If you say so. If.
Y'all let me in this damn house.
Should we hit record?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. All right, you ready?
I am ready. Are you recording?
Yes.
Good stuff.
Ooh. All right. Well, you want to start a show?
Let's start a show.
That podcast is filling your head with garbage.
No offense taken there.
Well, it sounds like none taken.
Asking mama, she'll say the same thing. I got all the ways, I just ain't got the means.
Welcome to episode number 399 of None Taken, the internet's only debate and current events show with your hosts Dustin and Alan, two political nomads from two different worlds. Shout out to Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band for the use of their song Ways and Means for intro music. Thank you for joining us. At the time of this recording, it is Tuesday, September 10th, 2022. It's a great day for America because it's a day before the bad one. We are two coastal elites coming to you from the shores of the mighty Cumberland in Madison, Tennessee, all the way to the Pacific waters of El Cerrito, California. Here to recap another week of current events and sharing way too much of our tragic personal lives and taking a sledgehammer to the culture war echo chambers. Please subscribe right now wherever you're listening to this. And more importantly, head over to nonetakenpod.com. Subscribe there for the low price of only $3 a month. Or I think we determined that's like 15 and a half bananas, 17 bananas, something, right? Somewhere
Something
between
like
15 and 17 bananas. Not organic, not fancy. Might only be like 11 organic bananas. But, for the price of a few bananas, you can get a whole month of None Taken. Now, if you want to be really cool, you could join at the $9 levels. If you want to be if you really want to impress us, you can join us at the $18 level. At that level, you get a Culture Warrior t-shirt. You can sign up for a month at that. I don't care. I'll send you the fucking shirt. We're not. Well, this is a relationship, and I trust you. So
yes.
head on over to nonetakenpod.com. That's nonetakenpod.com. That's right, nonetakenpod.com. Sign up for the Patreon and get exclusive access to all the hidden tracks and all the videos for the shows. And sometimes we have exclusive content there that is only on the Patreon. And Alan's going to tell you a couple of things.
Yeah, so the hidden tracks are always only Patreon exclusive. You also get early access to interviews that we do, so you get them before, sometimes a whole month before everybody else does. So cool stuff like that. You can also find our merch store over at nonetakenpod.com. You can pick yourself up a little Alan and the Boys edging service hoodie over there, a cunt coffee mug, or we say cunt in this house coffee mug. Lots of cool stuff over there. Also, all of our socials are over there. Everything you need for None Taken is at nonetakenpod.com. Also,
Me and the boys are edgy.
don't forget to support the people that support us. Slickestdigital.com for all your SEO and marketing needs. Slickestdigital.com.
I'm not going to say it this time. You bring up Slickets, I'm going to tell you about the time you could have met him, but that was in the hidden track. I'm not doing that.
Right. Okay.
Hell
yeah.
Hell yeah. Welcome to the show, everybody. Alan, I guess it's my way of asking you. By the way, join the Patreon and you can get live footage of the kitty cat behind me. You can see Pompey the Great.
Yes.
Grooming himself in his little cat. What do you call that? Little
cat shelter. I don't know.
Little cat bed. Yeah.
Yeah. He's hella cute.
He is so fucking cute.
So cute.
He's so small. He's so small.
He's a small boy.
Small boy. Yeah.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Hope you're all having a great week. I had a really nice weekend, man.
Dude, you told me you met somebody cool. I'll let you tell your stories.
Okay. So I met up with NBC on Saturday, my buddy Craig. We had some business stuff to talk about. I know we went out. And Craig and I share a love for like
James.
old kind of dive bars. We both kind of, we like a bar that's been around for a while and got that kind of like little
smells like they smoked in it.
Yeah. It's got maybe some stuff on the ceiling that you normally wouldn't see, things like that, right? So he's like,
boots.
I am. So he's like, he's like, I know, I've never taken you here. We're gonna go to this place. So it's in Clayton.
Are you describing a Chili? The way you said it sounds like you're talking about an Applebee's or a Chili's.
No.
All over the walls like shenanigans. I swear to God, the next person that says shenanigans.
This place has been there since like 1870 something.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's in Clayton, which is like east of Concord. Doesn't matter. Anyways,
I don't go east. I don't go to Concord.
It's called the Clayton Club Saloon. And so it's just this really old building, and
Yeah.
it's cool. So we walk in, we sit down at the bar. We're the only two people at the bar. There's other people in the bar, but they're not seated at the bar. So we're seated at the end. We're talking to the bartender, and she's cool. We're having a good time going back and forth. And I hadn't noticed yet, but all of a sudden, Craig goes, "Hey, how do you get your boots on the ceiling?" And I look up right in front of me, and I see like 4 pairs of boots hanging from the ceiling by their shoestrings, and they have like people's names written on the soles, like Woody in Toy Story. And the bartender, she's very she had a very sort of just matter of fact demeanor to her, and she just looks at him and she goes, "You die." And he's like, "What?"
Anybody could do that.
Yeah. So apparently, if you have been a regular at this bar, if you pass, then they write your name on the boots and they put them up on the ceiling. And so I'm looking at them, and in my frame of view, I can only see like 4 or 5. And then I look behind me, and there's like, I sent you pictures.
You sent me the first picture. I was like, oh, that's cool. There's like 4. And then you turn around and there's just a sea of boots.
There's like 100 boots. Like, it's crazy. There's even some sneakers and stuff up there. Anyway, so that was pretty cool. But then what happened next was we're sitting at the end of the bar. It's like an L-shaped bar. A guy comes and sits down close to the wall, like at the bottom of the L part.
That's where you met this guy?
Yeah.
What is he doing there?
I don't know.
Okay.
So I see him walk in. He sits down. He's the only other person sitting at the bar with us. He's clearly a regular. Like, the bartender knows who he is. A woman comes from one of the tables behind and comes and talks to him for a minute and then leaves. And he's sipping like white wine, like Sauvignon Blanc or something.
Sauvignon Blanc.
And I'm like, well, this guy seems interesting. And you know me at a bar, like, I'm going to engage with people. So I go to shake his hand and say, introduce myself. And I don't remember what I said. So we start chatting. You know, Craig introduces himself as well. And at some point in the conversation, we're talking, and he goes, "Yeah, I was the former CIO of HP." And I'm like, "What the? What? You're the
like when?"
In like the 2000s. Wow. So it's funny because I used to sell HP products in retail, right?
Yes.
And so
at the same time, sir.
Yeah. So I told him that, and then I was like, how'd you feel about the Compaq merger? Oh my God, that was a can of worms. And
I mean, like a total disappointment, I'm sure, right?
Well, especially for people that had been there for a while.
Oh,
It was a family-run company, you know.
HP was prior to
Yeah. So even once it went public, it was still very much had that sort of.
I mean, at that time, Compaq had become such garbage.
Yeah. And then I brought up Carly Fiorina, and that was a whole other.
She had a book. They sold it at Staples.
Yes.
It was like on leadership and stuff.
Yeah, he was not a fan. Anyways, so we just start talking, and so we're sitting there talking to this former CIO of Hewlett Packard for like, I don't know, 45 minutes, an hour. And then I guess he reached out to Craig on social media later and was like, "Hey, I'd like to hang out with you guys again."
When you say social media, I'm going to take a guess. LinkedIn.
Probably LinkedIn. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, that happened.
Pretty dope, man.
Yeah, things happen when you hang out with NBC, you know? Just never know.
Do you think he'd be a good show guest?
You know, I thought of that, but I figured I'd slow roll that.
Yeah.
You know, maybe.
Was he a good conversationalist?
He was. He was.
Right. You've got to be somewhat charismatic.
You have to be. Yeah. No, he was very entertaining.
I mean, CIO seems like the least, fun to talk to when I imagine it. No. Hold on. I'm going to redeem myself in case he never hears this. But of course, like you're at that C-suite, that leadership level. Like you have to have a certain gravitas and
right, because you're always
charisma.
You're going to be public facing a lot of the time, right? You're going to have to.
They can get any nerd in there. They can do it. You got to be able to talk it. You know.
Yep.
Yeah, you got to be the Neil deGrasse Tyson of.
Exactly, sir.
Exactly, sir. I'm not on the right page. Here's what I have on this page.
Chank.
I hope he doesn't listen to that part.
How about you, man? What did you get?
I got a cat. That's my note.
Nice.
Yeah. So this little thing joined our life. We did our last lake day of the season. It was fine. We decided to see what it was like to do like a paddle on the lake with friends with both dogs, and we're never going to do it again because all the dogs want to do is jump off the board. Natasha pulled. She like by the time she was falling asleep, she's like, "You remember how I was? How like my back hurt from the day before? By the way, my back's back to being like fantastic again.
Awesome. I knew it would be.
Yeah, Thank you. But yeah, her upper back, like shoulders, were like just killing her because she's lifting a 50-pound dog out of the water, because she's got her harness. There's the handle. You just lift the dog, put her on the board.
Right.
But like, yeah, it's just these dogs, they can't stay put. Mithra was hilarious because he didn't want to stop playing fetch, and he just, every time he plays fetch and carries the ball back, he's guzzling water that whole time. And like, we're out on the lake, like we're not next to shore. So once we got next to shore, he like kept jumping off the board and was like, not yet. Like, we got a spot where you can pee at. He wouldn't listen. He just ran ashore, peed, and came right back out to me. It was the longest piss ever. That dog pissed 4 times before we actually got in the car. Like,
oh, wow.
Yeah, dude, 4 times. And
a lot of water consumption.
A lot of water consumption. Anyways, yeah, we got a kitty cat. We got Pompey the cat. Yep. Programming note.
Yes.
Contact the affiliates. We will be playing content live. Just joining the debate tonight. So those of you, last time there was a debate, we did a whole, like, I think we did so that our hidden track was just the debate.
Yes.
This time we're just going to kind of jump into it towards the end of the Isn't That Something, and then to supplement some of the best of the left, best of the right. So slightly different programming than usual. But it's a podcast, and we can do that, and nobody can tell me that
it starts in 21 minutes and 34 seconds.
Well, I don't think we're going to be here for the beginning of it, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
If you see it start, let me know. We'll jump in at any time. I guess I'll pull it up on my Fizzy. I do have a question for you, since I know you're a big college football fan. Last week you were talking about watching Cal play football. Did you do you know, did Cal beat Auburn at Jordan-Hare Stadium?
They beat Auburn. I don't know what stadium it was at.
Yeah. You don't just walk into Jordan-Hare Stadium and expect to come out with a W. Yeah, Cal traveled to Auburn, Alabama, and won a game. That's
2-0, baby. 2-0.
You're a big Cal guy now. All right.
I mean, they're right next door. You know?
Yeah, sure. I'm glad you are. I wouldn't have picked Cal. You know what? I love it that you're a college football fan. We could talk about college football now.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, ACC football team, Cal. What's the A stand for? Do you have any idea?
Atlantic Coast.
Yep, Atlantic Coast Conference. Which another ACC team is Florida State, who lost in Ireland and then lost back at home in Florida. True masters of the Atlantic Coast.
None of the conference names make any sense anymore.
Not anymore. No,
I'm fine with it.
We got Stanford and Cal both in the ACC.
Let it go. Yeah,
it doesn't make no sense. Yeah.
No.
I don't even know what conference Oregon's in. I think they're in the Big Ten, but I'm not sure. Oh,
does the Pac-12 even still exist?
Yeah.
I don't.
Well,
okay.
I don't know what conference Washington State and Oregon State are in. They were the last 2 of the Pac-12. They might just be independents because nobody wanted them.
Like
I
Notre Dame.
I don't know. Yeah, well, Notre Dame. Don't get me started on Notre Dame. Notre Dame lost. That was pretty funny. They lost to a credit union. They lost to Northern Illinois. That's a credit union, right?
That is a credit union.
And they got paid $1 million for it. Their school got like $1.5 million for beating Notre Dame. Because and usually the big teams pay the little teams so they can play them. And it's like, we're going to get a win. You'll get some money. Everything's good. They're like, oh, here's the money. Thank you for beating me. We're not doing this. We're getting into our comedy segments. Okay.
Right.
All right. Here's our first comedy clip. This is Young Thrash Lad sent this in. This is Derek Yells is the guy's name. That's his @ on Instagram.
My DUIs back when we were still earning them, okay? No, there was no Uber or Lyft, all right? If you're under the age of 28, you don't know what it's like to be stranded. You've never been at a house party and watched your DD black out. You've never seen that. You don't know how scary that is. Tyler promised us he was going to be sober. Tyler lied. Stuck at a stranger's house, you don't know how you're going to get home. You've never earned it, sleeping in a cold sunroom, using a rug as a blanket. It's terrifying. Y'all been there. Laying in the floor, you're like, will sunlight ever come? I don't know. All y'all, if you're under the age of 28, you don't know what you get to go home when you want. Kings and queens of the Irish goodbye, you've never been stuck in a kitchen going through a stranger's pantry before. Because you couldn't leave because you're stuck. We didn't drive drunk because we wanted to. Look at me. We drove drunk because we wanted to see our families again. I wanted to see my mom, you know? I had too much vodka. That doesn't mean I don't get to see her.
Dude, it was such a thing, man. Like,
was.
actually seeing this stand-up reminded me of all that shit. Like,
Yeah, we forget.
he said using a rug as a blanket. I remember using like a couch cushion as a blanket.
Definitely done that.
Because it was like, yeah, I can lay on the couch where it's comfortable, but I'm freezing. Like, I
Right.
just need something over me, slightly trapping heat on top of
Right.
it. Like, yeah.
Definitely done that. Absolutely.
And that was the thing, is like, and you know, you had to lie to your parents to be there, and then you were like, well, someone was going to drive us home. Then you had to make up a story about why you weren't coming home that night, right? And you'd all
Yeah.
cover for each other, saying you're at different people's houses, and then you'd involve somebody who wasn't there, and then
Right.
they'd call your house asking where you were, and you're like, fuck, I got
Fuck. God damn it.
Oh my god. Nah, thanks, Trash, for sending that in. Making me
times.
feel young again.
Good times.
Speaking of age, here's a bit about a birth certificate. I don't remember anything about this other than the title. This is Grok Warren. We've been playing him. He's got a Hulu special.
Sir, do you have your birth certificate? My birth certificate? That document is 54 years old. I also don't have the Declaration of Independence. You can get a new birth certificate. You know, you just got to write to the state. But you can get one. I lose them all the time. I'm like, can I just get a book of 50? Is there a birth certificate of the month club or something I could join?
That's pretty good. Oh, I forgot these buttons. There we go. Paul Harvey's good for that age joke.
He's good for that.
Um,
I need to get a birth certificate again. I've lost mine.
I haven't had my social security card in like 15 years. I lost it 15 years ago. I just haven't got around to replacing it yet.
How do you like do your
how do you get a
I-9?
Okay, so on the I-9, you can have 2 of column A and B or 1 from column C.
Oh, you have like a passport or something.
Of course I have a passport. Yes.
Yeah.
So I have a passport because I got that before I lost my social. Yeah. Yeah, I just need to go down there. Well, okay, so I'm going to the Social Security office soon to change my name. That's where you have to go.
Oh, right.
Start changing your name. And I'm waiting to do that until I'm not traveling anymore, which I totally should have done in between August and October, but now I'm directly between August and October. So I guess I'll wait until after October. I don't want to change it and then have to fly and then to have
it's a whole thing.
Like, sir, when I scan this, it says you don't have this name anymore. Anyway, Ben Wonders sent in a good bit about Aladdin. This one's pretty good. This one's being told at like a fucking like church rec room. But this is a good bit. This deserves more.
Rewatched Aladdin recently. If you've never seen Aladdin, it is the story of a homeless orphan.
Okay.
A homeless orphan who finds a very unhelpful genie. I'm telling you guys, rewatch that movie. The genie is so much more useless than you remember. First thing he says to Aladdin when he meets him are that he cannot make anybody love him and he can't bring anybody back from the dead. And if you took a survey of homeless orphans, those would be the top 2 wishes, right? Like, by a landslide. Like, at that point, I'm surprised Aladdin didn't just drop kick that lamp into the Persian Gulf. The genie has the audacity to tell him he can't wish for more wishes. Oh, really? I can't wish for any more of these incredibly valuable, life-changing wishes? Even that no wishing for more wishes rule feels anti-homeless. You can just hear someone being like, don't give him any wishes, he'll spend it on more wishes. Rewatched a
Oh, that's good.
That's very good.
Yeah, it is. That guy deserves. Oh, wait, I didn't say his name. Overweight Champs is at Tim Champa. CHMPA. Tim Champa.
It's a good bit.
That's a great bit. That guy deserves more cred.
Absolutely.
I know he's got more bits in him. There's no way you come up with a bit like that and that's your only trick, right?
No, for sure.
Pompey's had enough of this. Have you been seeing this cute little boy? I'm so glad this is the week where I got a new camera where you can see
I know, me too. Yes, I'm seeing
Did
him.
you see him eating his dinner during the last bit?
No, I didn't. I was looking at the video.
This one's I found this. This is from Jeffrey Osmus. Remember when me and you were talking shit? Were you talking shit about Wells Fargo or Bank of America?
Wells Fargo.
Okay, same joke. Bank of America.
We all know what the best bank is, folks. Say it with me. Wells Fargo.
Oh, I thought it was B of A. That's so funny. Okay, here we go. Wells Fargo.
The greatest bank of all time. They are. Everyone should bank with Wells Fargo. This is true. This is a financial hack for you fucking poor motherfuckers. This is a little hack. Wells Fargo is the greatest bank of all time, and this is why. Wells Fargo refuses to stop breaking the law. Every 3 to 5 months, Wells Fargo commits a massive felony, and then I receive a class action lawsuit payment. You know what I mean? Every 3 months, I get an email from Wells Fargo like, ooh, oopsie. We sent all your money to Boko Haram. Here's $125. We're sorry. It won't happen again. And then 3 months later, they email me like, oh no, it happened again. We used your Roth IRA to fund the invasion of Ukraine. You're technically a war criminal. Don't worry, we'll waive those overdraft fees. Wells Fargo fucking rips, dude. Every 8 months, they'll email me and they'll be like, someone is hacking your account and is making fraudulent purchases. And that person's name is Wells Fargo. They're like, you should change your password. We won't pay. We all know.
You can trust us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nameless sent this one in. Dude, this one's really good. This is an Italian American at the Comedy Cellar in New York. He believes he solved the race problems, but it's limited to only blacks and whites.
Okay.
Black and white. Should we get into it? I look like a cop. Let's talk about it. How can we come together? How can we come together? Asians, Latinos, we'll have to do it another day. Right now, we're talking black and white. Black and white. How can we do it? How can we make it work? How? Because I love the white community, of which I am a member. Italian, bottom rung of the white. But I also love the black community. How can we do it? You know what I came up with? Brunch. Brunch, because you have to take what each group values. What do whites love? Breakfast. Whites love breakfast.
I believe at this point that I've discovered the joke and he takes too long to get to it. It's still going to be funny.
This is the most important meal of the day. Who do you think came up with that? I guarantee it was a white. Whites love breakfast. And what do black people love? Being 2 hours late for shit.
All right. Listen to the hidden track for more on that. It's probably best we move on.
Actually, I have a tip in real quick.
Oh,
I was listening.
Please,
I was listening to
Alan, our Brown correspondent, would like to join in.
I was listening to a foreign policy podcast. They were talking about German political parties, and the woman who was the guest had a very severe lisp, and when she couldn't say R's, so when she said the right wing party, she said the white wing party. And it made me giggle.
You got to send me clips of things like that.
Okay,
That's totally show worthy. I tried to type the word waning in the group chat earlier today. And I was like, well, that's not spelled like that. I guess it's just WANING. But I spelled it like raining if I had her speech.
AI. Yeah.
Waning. It's waning. It's waning, man.
Waning.
Okay. All right. This is Stephen Haas. Joe in Houston sent this in. This is a great bit about childcare. This guy like plays piano like background music. He's not like playing a song. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes.
I can't afford kids. Do you guys know about the price of daycare? Do you guys know what's going on, how expensive this is? I think, to put it into perspective, if I had never heard of the storming the Capitol and you showed me that footage, I'd be like, oh, this is about the daycare thing, right? These are the parents about the daycare thing. It's so expensive. It's actually cheaper to just buy your child his own apartment and take him there every day.
I just figured that was sort of like on topic. Moves us right into the rest of the show proper. Man, damn it. James did it again. I feel like he just did one of these, and this one's 2 minutes long.
Oh boy, I can't wait.
I know. Buckle up. Ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Don't talk during it. James is going to isolate that. Never dissolve, no matter how much you suck it. I shot myself in the face with that, Alan. Can't believe these judges aren't getting assassinated. How's your craw doing since then? I walked up and I just lifted up my pant leg and pulled my little dick out through the bottom of my shorts. This is a game of inches, right? Yeah. I got to pay $25 to have somebody suck my dick these days.
Okay.
And they would come in the little baseball caps. Remember that? Hey guys, it'll be okay. We're just gonna kill a bunch of brown people. They're on the other side of the world. It doesn't matter. Are we gonna make a gangbang out of this? Hold on. I'm coming. That's me as a girl coming. I like it when the money shot misses and it hits the cushion. Give me a break. We would have joked about child porns. Venezuela, far safer place to meet than our country. Put a finger on that out.
I like to jerk it first.
And I got a new cum button. Dad, I've sucked off donkeys all the time. I grew up on a it busted, right? Me and Alan pegging each other. Yeah, Central Park 5 definitely raped that woman. I'm asexual predator. She's 17. We're going to the making out point.
I keep getting older and they stay the same age.
Yeah, we need a really strong cartels. Did you see her jerking off? Did you see that?
I did.
I want to rewind that and get a little.
I didn't hear this.
Making out point.
I keep getting older and they stay the same age.
Yeah, we need a really strong cartels. Did you see her jerking off? Did you see that?
I did.
I want to rewind that and get a little horny here. That way we don't have so many illegals coming in here, right? Yeah, illegal immigrants. You know what else is a loophole?
What's that?
Catholic girls and anal. A shit in my mouth. The laughter's like that girl cum. Like to ease it in. Or rail lines. George Sloppy Topolis. So you know.
Lubed up.
So you know.
Lubed up.
So you know.
Lubed up. Lubed up. Lubed up.
Dude, vote for me. We'll make all of your overtime pay, and your shift leader will not be able to tell you. Will not be able to adjust your time card.
Damn, bro. That was racist.
Oh, that was fantastic. I don't remember all those. Wow, that was good times.
James.
Thank you, James. That was terrific.
Never stop catching us in all of our. You know what? And like I said last time, when some of that was said, and I'm a better person because because of the grace you've shown me and my ability to grow. And
yeah, you're on a journey to who you are now.
Yeah. Jesus. All right, can we do like normal show shit here?
Yes.
You know, nothing weird at all. Okay. Do you ever wonder how duck hunt works?
Did you say that again?
Yeah, you know the game Duck Hunt? The Nintendo game with the little
yes, I do recall the game with the dog that would laugh at you when you missed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So how do you think Duck Hunt works? The gun.
Oh. It like picked up a pixel on the TV or something. I don't know.
Shut the fuck up, Alan. Did you just guess that?
Yeah. Why it was
You didn't think it was like a You know what? Fuck you. I'm going to play the
Do you know how the light gun works and why that was such a leap forward? This was a very clever invention by Nintendo's engineers. You could imagine that the most intuitive way for it to work would be, well, you take a regular gun that shoots bullets out of it, and instead you make it shoot some kind of laser out of it. But what that would require is for the TV, the target, to have a detector on it, which you really don't want to have to force that constraint. That sounds really hard, especially when you're trying to work with like a lot of different TVs. They figured out that actually what we should be doing is we should make the gun the detector, and we should specialize what's coming on the screen. So there's like a one frame thing that happened, but basically the screen flashes one frame where only the target is lit up and the gun is the detector. And if in the gun's sight it sees the set of pixels that are lit on the one frame, then it knows it got a hit. And if it doesn't detect those pixels, then it's a miss.
Oh wait, I always wondered how Duck.
I'm so upset that you figured out how Duck Hunt works that easily. Why do you keep laughing every time I say that?
Because it sounds like you're saying duck cunt, not duck hunt.
What? I would never talk like that. Well, that's not true. We do say
see previous clip. I think.
I'm a cunt. That's a good point. Yeah, it does sound like I'm saying duck cunt.
It does.
Oh, how do you say it?
Duck hunt.
Yeah, but you're like emphasizing the H. I'm just saying it quickly. Duck hunt. It ends with a CK.
Yeah.
And the H is kind of soft, duck hunt.
See, you said it correctly.
I thought I said the same. Duck hunt.
Nope.
I don't. Okay. All right. All right. We you know what we can't do? We can't call the show Duck Hunt. We can't.
We can't do that.
No. But what I intend to call the show based on the last clip, edgy, but acceptable in the parlance of our times. Slickett sent that in. Thanks, Slickett. Keep sending in shit like that. That's awesome. I've got generational warfare. You love generational warfare, right?
Of course, who doesn't?
Especially when it's like generations that we're not a part of now, because it used to be like Gen Z, Gen X, excuse me, millennials, Gen X, and everybody, shitting on us, Alan, because you pretend like you're a millennial. Alan's young Gen X. Young Gen X, yes. But I, a millennial. God,
I missed it by 1 year. God damn it!
I remember when that made me feel young. I was like, "Hey, it's cool though. I'm an elder millennial, so I'm the cool one." Now they're like, "Oh, the oldest there is of the old people now." Might as well be a boomer. Anyways, the Gen Z and Gen Alpha are kind of at it in terms of like Gen Z is acting confused with Gen Alpha's slang.
Yes.
And this might be the only time I've ever laughed at Stephen Colbert.
Meanwhile, Generation Alpha. No, it's not the name of a syndicated Canadian show about teens with superpowers. It's the term used to refer to kids under 14. They're in the news because there is now slang unique to Generation Alpha, such as Sigma, Gat, and Phantom Tax. Well, Gen Z...
We talked about this like a year ago.
I remember.
But leave it to Colbert.
Remember, I think Drew called me while we were talking about it, and we tried to ask him if he knew what those words meant.
Familiar,
yes.
Yeah,
he didn't know either.
Are officially vintage. Ooh!
Spilling the tea and other things are vintage. Yeah, I paused it at the worst time. So he says that tea and I don't know what are other things that Gen Z was saying.
I mean, tea was, everybody knew what tea was, right?
I know, but it didn't come from us.
Oh.
I know it came from people younger than you. Us meaning us young, you older Gen X's. All right. So Gen Z is acting like they don't understand the slang of Gen Alpha. That's the joke here. And it's about to get, this is as funny as Colbert gets since he left The Daily Show.
How's that taste, Gen Z? Oh, you laughed and laughed when old Grandpa Colbert tried to use terms like no cap, but now you're vintage. Who's the Phantom Tax now? Am I using that term incorrectly? You don't know either. Welcome to hell. Welcome to hell.
All right, there we go. It can't get any funnier than that.
I don't know what Phantom Tax is. Do you?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I did at some point, Alan. Don't put this on here. It was like Phantom was some guy that like steal your French fries, I think, and you'd be like,
"Oh, okay,
look, dude, that's the best I got." And I learned that from like Taylor Lorenz or something explaining something on the internet, right? I'd rather move on from crediting Taylor Lorenz on the show. Dinesh D'Souza, can you maybe catch people up with who Dinesh D'Souza is?
Yeah, they make great hors d'oeuvres, high quality.
Do you remember this guy?
Chef James Beard Award winning. No, I kind
really?
of do. Yeah, I know the name.
Stop the Steal guy. Well, him and Ali Alexander.
Oh, okay, yes.
Dinesh D'Souza, he's one of the big lie architects, right?
Right. Okay.
He's a big right wing guy, which is this cat is in his little cat tunnel with a little bell in there, and I don't know.
I heard it.
Oh, all right. Well,
it's fine.
Natasha's at church camp right now, so I have to watch the cat. Otherwise, the dogs are great. They are not aggressive. They just are so curious. Mithra's fine. Mithra's just like, oh, this sounds cool. You want to play fetch? Petra can't stop licking her.
I saw the video you posted. She just kept.
She's just like
she'll adjust.
Oh, so yesterday I got home a little early from work yesterday, and Natasha is like at work in her office, which is now the cat's office. We started calling it that, but at night we put the cat in his office. His office. And so she's like plays referee basically and does her work all day. But I got home early and I just went out on the couch and I held the cat on my lap and kept Petra at bay and then introduced until then. She was just like, when she wasn't able to lick the kitty, she was just panting with her mouth open and drooling. like are you trying to eat this cat? Anyway, I'm not going to make the whole show about my cat. So this is Dinesh D'Souza in an interview. He's also the guy behind that movie 2000 Mules that like went to court and everything and it was proven to be wrong.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So he was being asked questions, I believe about I think the guy asking the questions is an atheist.
think that the universe had a beginning?
I would suspect yes.
How did the writers of the book of Genesis know that?
The scientific method has also revealed to us that the Earth was formed much later than the Sun. The Old Testament account tells us that it was the other way around. So it got that bit wrong.
So there's a little bit of silence from D'Souza there.
Yeah. All right. So we're, yes, the Bible is not.
So sometimes it gets things right, sometimes it gets things wrong, you know?
The Bible is not a science. It's not listing out a scientific.
Well, now hold on I feel like this is an anti-colonialism video here. It's like, why is the white guy talking to the Indian about Christianity and trying to talk him out of it? It's like, look, I know my people came to your country and made you do this.
Second, you can't now move the goalpost, especially if you're still going to miss. Is it telling us how the universe scientifically formed or not?
It is stated.
That was pretty good. He was like, it was a different day. Well, it was millions of years, so you can't move the goalposts and still miss.
Stating a conclusion, not a process. It's not telling you how the universe was formed.
Right. It also doesn't tell us how the sun was formed, but it tells us that it was formed after the earth was. On what day is it that God makes the sun? Day 4, something around there?
Obviously it can't be day 4 because the concept of day in the original Hebrew doesn't mean day.
Sure, but day 4 comes after day 1, right?
Well, it's describing obviously epochs or periods.
Yeah,
yes.
so actually it's much worse because now the sun is created much later than the earth was.
Do you think
just like walking into all of them, right?
Yeah, he just walked into that propeller. Just yeah.
I have a feeling, I don't know, I can't remember what's coming up later in the show. I feel like we have a lot of propeller walking in this episode.
He was so confident too when he led with that question. He's like, "I got
always
this."
Confident. This guy, that's his trademark character.
I got this one.
Yeah. He's like, "Oh yeah, well, how about this?" It's like, come on, man. Just like, it's okay. You could just end it with, "This is my personal religious beliefs." Like,
right.
Nobody's gonna get their mind changed here. Nobody thought that was gonna happen. Don't be a dummy about this. Like, I mean, dude, so many people in like our ecosystem are people that are very religious. And I love that, like,
I'm fine with it.
I don't remember how okay anybody is with being talked about on the show in that regard, so I'll leave it vague. But like, there's a listener that when I get all freaked out about flying, he's like, "Hey man, do you mind if I say a prayer for you?" I'm like, "Absolutely, man. I respect that.
Cool.
And I would love it if you would,
Yeah.
And like, that feels great. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I'm just repeating things you say now.
Isn't that something?
It's time for that. It's time for Isn't That Something? I searched the internet the best I could for a 9/11 themed clip because now I know it's only 9:10 here and it's not in front of mine, but tomorrow you would remember, as we've been told for 24 years now.
Never forget.
23 years. Never forget. Yes.
Right.
So on this day, 23 years ago, George Bush flew 2 planes into the Pentagon. No planes into the Pentagon. That was a planned explosive. We know the planes hit the towers, right? Imagine being like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to plant a bunch of explosives, but then we're going to fly planes into it so that we can excuse the explosives we planned. It's like, why are you making this so? Why don't you just say terrorists put bombs in the building? That would have been a good way to do that. You know what's funny? This has been going up. Well, you know what's funny? 9/11.
Elderly abuse.
That has never crossed my mind in the 23 years of countering 9/11 conspiracies. It's never crossed my mind. It's like, the planes are unnecessary if you're going to do the explosions, right? Because the argument is like, well, jet fuel can't melt steel beams. Well, it's like, okay, well,
why bother with the planes at all?
Why bother with the planes at all? Yeah, exactly.
The Grand Lake Theater in Oakland is having a movie festival, a 9/11 movie festival tomorrow. And I drove by and I saw it on the marquee. And I don't know, and they didn't detail what movies are going to be played. And I just, in my head, I thought it'd be really funny if they played a bunch of Alex Jones videos. Like,
yeah,
that'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
People show up and it's just Alex Jones, like saying,
Did you ever watch that movie Flight 93? I had no desire to see it. And there was that movie World Trade Center that came out like 5 years later. It was like, hey, you guys are making a lot of money off of a tragedy here. Like, you got to wait like 50 years and then we'll watch Pearl Harbor, as long as you got Ben Affleck in it, And Cuba Gooding Jr. Was that Cuba Gooding Jr.? That was Cuba, right?
It was. Yeah. They're doing their opening statements at the debate.
I didn't get this one set up. Let me play this clip and I'll get that set up and we'll go.
I recognize this guy. We played him a lot.
This is the guy I'm trying to get him on the show. This is Jason Pargin. Yes, we love this guy. This is Jason Pargin, or author David Wong. That's his novel.
Right.
So this is there's a reason I'm talking about 9/11. Okay.
Well, here's one of the most cursed images you'll ever see, and the longer you look at it, the more cursed it gets. Like right away, you say, okay, it's a receipt from a shop in the North Tower of the World Trade Center from 9/11, but that's actually not the creepiest part. If you look at the timestamp, 8:55 a.m., this is 9 minutes after the first plane hit the tower where this shop is located. We actually know the whole story behind this receipt for the same reason we have the receipt itself. The purchase, probably the last thing ever bought from the World Trade Center, was made by a journalist, Joanne Lippman. Her office at the Wall Street Journal was just across the street from the North Tower. She went over there to shop at Lecter's Housewares to get something for her daughter. While she was in there, the plane struck the tower, but that was not audible from within the store. She said she just heard a commotion and there was a lot of people kind of leaving the building and running around in the street. So she took herself up to the counter and the cashier actually said, I think we're supposed to leave or evacuate or something. And she was like, sure, but ring me up first. I really need these refrigerator magnets for my daughter. And in her defense, she said, it's New York. You know, there are commotions in the streets sometimes. They probably thought it was a car accident or something. And so she bought her magnets for $10.83, paid cash, and walked out, having no idea that she was going to walk into a changed world.
Fucking crazy, right?
That's wild.
Isn't that something?
I don't know. Do you want to drop into this debate, or should we like pay vast deference to the
Yeah, I don't think it's interesting yet. I mean, so they're both just kind of, so Trump was talking about those apartment buildings in Colorado that are
we got a clip about that. It's wonderful. Talk about it.
That
the Venezuelan gangs, the made up story.
The made up story. Yeah.
Okay.
He just talked about that in his opening statement, like it's a
Great.
real thing.
You got a clip about that in the show.
Okay, awesome. Yeah,
his hair looks gray. I'm looking at it right now.
It does. It's not the usual orange.
I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic, and the pandemic was not since 1917.
That's bullshit to say cut taxes. His plan, unless you make over $300,000 a year, your taxes will rise under him, and tariffs are going to go up, which means it look like I always try to clarify tariffs are a tax on the importer, but it ultimately will trickle down to the consumer. It's a tax on the consumer. I can't wait to hear a response to that.
And it negatively impacts the poorest people. It's a regressive tax.
A lot of things, but not enough.
So I have a theory that going into this, she needs to try to get him to be unhinged early on. She needs to like bait him into his like ludicrous statements, because we all know he's really good at being composed for like 15 or 20 minutes and then he goes off script.
Yeah.
But wait here.
Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people.
Perfect.
I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy. And the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit.
Oh, he went to Wharton, didn't he?
Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you, because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
All right, I'm going to cut it there. We can come back to it.
Yeah, that was a good response.
That was something that Joe Biden did not fucking have within his abilities 2.5 months ago or whenever that shit took place. Like that was such a slam dunk. I mean, let's hear what he says.
Our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish,
we're good. Yeah, we'll check back in on that.
Solid money.
Good, solid money for a country. What? Yeah, run the country like your companies that you've driven into the ground.
Right.
All right. We'll
sued for fraud about. Yeah.
Sued for frog. It's not on this page. Fraud. You got away with it this time. I got something about frogs. I see Alex Jones here. Isn't it something about frogs with Alex Jones?
Turn the frogs gay.
Oh, it's only birds on this one.
Turns the frickin' birds gay.
All right. So we're in. Isn't that something? I have a clip for you from Dave DeCamp on Anti-War Radio.
Oh, okay.
This one, I didn't record the second one, but this one was just really fun for me. So
National said Israel's creation of.
I like to showcase him saying dumb things on his show.
Yes, I do.
Like, look, I am a bit of a pedant. Like, I don't like. I like picking apart little things that people say wrong. Like I am
Mhm.
pedantic in that way. I let it pass. Me and Ben Wonders were talking about this. That's why I sort of stalled in my head because I was like, well, I don't want to like quote a conversation I had with a person earlier, but like if you are on the radio, you need to be perfect. If you're doing a podcast, you get a lot of slack. But if you act indignant, you need to be either perfect or like what we do, where I go, is that how you say this word? You know?
Right.
Okay. Do you get what I
We
mean by
fact
that?
checked ourselves sometimes, like live on the air.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
That Israel's creation of a buffer zone in Gaza should be investigated as war crimes, since it has involved the wanton destruction of all buildings in agricultural land.
Oh no, not wonton destruction.
The Chinese dumplings. No,
you bring out a poo-poo platter. I'm gonna. That's a wonton destruction. Yeah. You think is poo-poo platter sounds Pacific Island? See, here we go. I don't know that, but I know that the Bloodhound Gang taught me that if
your ass is a Chinese restaurant, I'll take the poo poo platter.
Can you say it again?
No.
All right.
This is gonna do
All
that.
right. I like that you both know the quotes from the Bloodhound Gang. That Hooray for Boobies album was so good.
It was fantastic. Yeah.
I still play it. I still play the.
I mean, the first one too. The beer coaster was
yeah,
pretty good.
yeah. But that one that ends with "Holy guacamole," it's got Homer Simpson on loop.
Yeah,
that's a great song. Okay. I've been wanting to play this. I almost played this on our Friday show last week. This is Alan's favorite political commentator, host of the Young Turks, creator of the Young Turks.
Yes.
Arguably the creator of the political movement that brought us such hits as The Squad, Cenk Uygur, or as Alan, just say it with a J. You're like, no, it has a C. I have to hit a C sound. Do it.
Cenk.
That was great. This is what you normally do.
Cenk.
Why would you ever?
Cenk.
I love it. I love it so much. All right. So Cenk Uygur was on the Lex Friedman podcast, which is basically if you liked Joe Rogan prior to like 2020. I listened to him all the way up to the pan. Honestly, the only thing that made me stop listening to him was the Spotify deal. Like it stopped being accessible. And I was like, all right, well, I won't listen as much. I don't know if he changed when he went there or what, but like he just became less appealing. Once I stopped he does feel like he got
like caught up in kind of a weird ecosystem.
Yeah,
I think that sort of.
Well, I didn't listen for like 3 years, and then when he came back off Spotify, I tuned in and like somebody, a guest mentioned the vaccines. He's like, "Well, you know this." I'm like, "Oh, nope, still right there.
Nothing's changed. Still there."
Anyway, so Lex Friedman is basically like everything I loved about listening to Joe Rogan, but from like a more how would you describe that?
Well, I think so. He's
a more tolerable temperament.
Yeah, and he's willing to talk to people on every side of the aisle,
which is what I liked about Joe. Well,
what we liked about Joe, and also he's willing. He's very like. He's not surface level. He's very interested in going deeper and deeper and deeper. He'll keep asking the questions to get like to the heart of the matter. I think is and Joe used to be able to do that too, because he would just sort of free associate, and then he would. Like a topic would grab him, and then he would just be a pit bull and would let it go until he got to the bottom.
I'm sorry. The Trump is looking very upset, and Kamala is reacting to it. I backed it up 15 seconds.
Okay.
In the 21, that's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals, and that's bad for our economy too. You know,
he stopped saying asylum seekers. I think people. He stopped saying letting people out of asylums. I think he figured out that
he
doesn't know what asylum means. They told him. He's like, oh shit, I shouldn't say that anymore. I thought that meant insane asylums.
He's really trying to bang that immigration drum, though.
Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has destroyed
come take the black jobs.
Country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, okay, never mind. All right, here we go. Here's a Lex Friedman clip. I'm sorry, guys. I won't be that schizophrenic throughout. I looked, and it looked like it was a passionate. He just pounds his fist and speaks aggressively. Here's Lex Friedman talking to Cenk Uygur.
Different ways to achieve it.
Oh, okay. I did a bad job setting this up. Please forgive me. I won't do that again. I'm sorry, listeners. I appreciate you guys being here. I won't make this that hard to listen to. I love this. This is a little bit of a history lesson. It touches on hope, the culture wars, one of our favorite subjects, and money and politics. This, I feel like just this clip encapsulates the entire interview.
Influence, right? So how do we get money out of politics?
So it's very difficult, but doable, and we will do it. So, but in order to do it, the populist left and the populist right have to unite, because
and that's coming up. Their definitions of populist fall outside of our definitions, but
sure.
I think we need to accept that there's neo-populism, and they need to start calling it neo-populism.
By the way, that is why we have the culture wars.
That's why you're voting for Trump.
I hit play by accident. No. Said execute the baby. Did you hear that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so we can get into that in a minute. So the culture wars are meant to divide us. If we get united, we have enough leverage and power to be able to do it. But you can't do it through a normal bill, because if you do it in a bill, the whole point of capturing the Supreme Court was to make sure that they could kill any piece of legislation that would protect the American people.
You're saying the Supreme Court is also captured by this?
Oh, 100%. So, okay. So let me explain. Again, people, for the uninitiated, they think, oh, that sounds conspiratorial. Well, in this case, that's actually somewhat true, because people now know about this. It's the Powell memo, right? The most infamous political memo in history.
I got to admit, I actually wasn't familiar with the Powell memo. I feel like I'm familiar with the effects of it, but I didn't know this by name. Did you?
No, I didn't.
Powell writes a memo for the Chamber of Commerce in 1971. That's basically a blueprint for how the Chamber of Commerce can take over the government. And Lewis Powell explains one of the most important things you have to do is take over the media. But even more important than that is taking over the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court is the ultimate arbiter of what is allowed and not allowed. And he says, we need, quote, activist judges to help business interests on the court. Okay. And then Nixon reads the memo and goes, that sounds like a really good idea. How about I put you on the Supreme Court? And he puts Lewis Powell, the guy who wrote the memo, on the Supreme Court, where he's the deciding vote in Bellotti and Buckley. So Bellotti's those two decisions are 76 and 78, and what they say is, yeah, I read the Constitution and it says that money is speech. No, it isn't. And
that sounds like
Citizens United.
Touches on that, but apparently it lays the groundwork for that.
Right.
I'm interrupting because it's a 4-minute clip.
That's not even close to true. They just made it up. And they said, okay, and corporations, they're human beings. No, they're not. That's preposterous, right? And they have the same inalienable rights as human beings and citizens do. And money is speech, and speech is an inalienable right. So corporations can spend unlimited money in politics. And there goes our democracy. Gone. Okay.
Imagine like just the logic behind money is speech.
It's mind-boggling to even attempt.
Like it would be insulting to the audience to be like, and if not everybody has the same access to money, then speech isn't the same thing as money, because it's
So Citizens United just shot a dead horse with a Gatling gun and made it worse and put it on steroids, but it was already dead in 78. So that's why every chart you see for the rest of your life, you'll see this. Every chart about the American economy starts to diverge in 1978. So until 38 to 78, we have golden 40 years.
And we see a lot of the effects during Reagan, and we oftentimes talk about the trickle down and all this stuff from Reagan, which is its own compounding factor in it, but it doesn't exist with that strength if it weren't on the steroids, which were the money in politics that those decisions provided, right?
Yep.
Of economic prosperity.
It's not a surprise that under that administration, they were able to leverage the ability that was granted under the Nixon administration.
Very much not a surprise.
We create the greatest middle class the world.
Excuse me. I'm aware of the different administrations. That would have been Ford and Carter, but those were judges put in place by Nixon.
World has ever seen. And our productivity is sky high, but our wages match our productivity. After 78, productivity is still sky high, best in the world. Okay, sometimes people, the American worker's lazy. Not remotely true. We work our ass off, okay? But wages flatline. And they've been flatlining for about 50 years straight. And the reason is because the Supreme Court made bribery legal. So in order to get past the Supreme Court, you only have one choice. That's an amendment. And so you have to get an amendment. Amendments are very difficult.
This is where it becomes hopeful. So up until then, he's talking about all the problems, right? And I just want to pause and say, I'm going to go out on a limb. Everyone listening to this has grown up in that environment, just like our youngest listeners grew up under the Patriot Act, right? And like in the future,
Just status quo.
We're going to live under the Palantir environment where they just everything we've said, they know, like it's happened, like they know it. The government doesn't even know it, but they do, right?
Right.
But so, for example, you need 2/3 of Congress to even propose the amendment. So, well, why would Congress propose an amendment that would take away their own power, right? Because almost everybody in Congress got there through corruption. Their main talent is, I can kiss corporate ass better than you can, right? So they take the most amount of money. A person with more money in Congress wins 95% of the time, right? But the good news is the founding fathers were geniuses, and they put in a second outlet. They said, or 2/3 of the states can call for a convention where you can propose an amendment. And after an amendment is proposed, then 3/4 of the states have to ratify it. That's what makes it so difficult, because getting 3/4 of the states, there's so many red states, so many blue states, getting 3/4 of the states to agree is near impossible. But there is one issue that the whole country agrees on.
Because the first thing I think on that is, well, the Equal Rights Act has been stalled in that limbo since the 70s, right? Maybe earlier. But like that's a bit more of a touchy subject. You know, you get red states, they're like, I don't really need these women outside of the kitchen. But like, you know, money out of politics is something that everyone left and right agrees on.
93% of Americans believe that politicians serve their donors and not their voters. So this is the one thing we can unite on. If we unite on this, we push our states to call for a convention. We all go to the convention together. We bring democracy alive, and we propose amendments to the Constitution. And the best amendment gets 3/4 of the states to ratify. You go above the Supreme Court, and you solve the whole thing.
That gives me a fucking liberty boner, man.
So that statistic about 95% of races are won by the candidate who has more money, they actually go further into explaining that. And so holistically, that is true. When you get to upper levels of elections, like say a presidential election, that is less true, because people are at that level
it's not a
already have a name recognition.
Yeah.
So that's not
that it's not a contradiction.
I didn't
it's
mean
a
to
tension.
back this up without it playing. I'm so sorry. Yeah, when I heard that, I was like, yeah, well, we're watching a debate with somebody who may have more money than the other one. It doesn't matter. It's not the same.
It's not the same thing. However, at like your city council members or your state house representatives, your state senators, your state house.
Oh.
Yes, that does matter. And what a lot of conservative PACs have figured out over the last couple of decades is how to leverage that and be able to stack state houses and state senates and state governors, even at city levels, mayors and city council members, school boards, all these things. And so that's something that they've been able to leverage in using. And it doesn't take a lot of money in those races, because your opponent is likely not to have a ton of money. They don't have millions of dollars.
Then you just leverage culture wars, and you've been sowing that field for years. Like,
Yep. And then you can build from there. And that's what they've been doing.
I'm going to skip this one and do the second one or the third one. My note on this is there's a reason we like him so much, because I get that there's a lot of people who don't like this guy. I totally. In fact, I understand
people on the left and the right both.
I intimately feel familiar with why people don't like him, because it's me, you know, like it's like, yeah, I can relate to someone being like, you might think I'm a lefty, and lefties might think I'm too conservative. Right. That's pretty much where I fall. Right. Like most conservatives give me shit about being a lefty, and most people on the left don't accept me. And I don't think that I'm quite left enough to be I would never have supported AOC's primary campaign the way he did. Although I don't know.
He talks about that in the interview. He had his reasons.
I'm kind of thinking about that conversation in the background, how she left, and then she went with the campaign manager and took them from him, and then he left, and then she hasn't been the same since then, because she started taking corporate money, right?
Right.
Yeah. So this is him talking about tension and balance.
That it's not a contradiction. It's a tension that is inevitable to get to balance. The reason why people kind of can't figure me out, they're like, well, you're on the left, but you're a capitalist, etc. That's not a contradiction. That's getting to the right balance.
I think he even talks about it. He calls it like democratic. What did he say? Not democratic socialism.
Yeah, I can't remember the term exactly, but he's very. So he talks about being anti-corporate, but pro-capitalist, which I thought was an interesting distinction. I don't think I've ever heard anybody else make before.
Totally recognize that. Like,
Yeah, and then he talked about how the pendulum has swung, and at this point, so people are always worried about taking a risk, right? About, well, that sounds too risky, and the potential is that the pendulum swings too far the other way. And he's like, look, I mean, yeah, that potential is always there, but where we're at right now, it's way over here. And so we need to get it back in the middle. That's the tension in the balance, right?
Yeah.
And so if it goes too far, okay, we deal with that when it happens, but we gotta push it that direction at least. And that really, I think that resonated with me a lot.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that part up. I actually forgot that exact, like, the further conversation of that. Yeah, exactly. And that, I mean, that just, and we're jerking each other off here. But like that is like how me and you feel politically, though, right? Like, yeah, you align a little bit more to the left than I do, but like we meet here and don't argue and call our show the internet's only debate and current events show, and people get mad because we don't debate. It's like, you don't understand the joke. It's fine. I want to try to see if this clip opens up. I'm going to change the subject. We're going to play a clip about if you listen to the White House, Tucker Carlson's favorite Holocaust denier. But before that, let's hear Kamala Harris's response to it's a few questions back. Tell me if I should just go live on it or if I should play her response to the abortion question.
Do the response to the abortion question, I think.
Response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact.
He said electrocute the baby.
Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral.
Joe just does not have the capacity to do
this.
Or the religious capacity to do so.
Same.
And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
She said all of that without sounding like Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
I mean, we've only heard snippets, but this is going very well in my opinion so far. Is there anything? Should I skip forward? What are they doing now?
Currently, she tried to get under his skin a little bit by saying that people are leaving his rallies early because they're bored. They're bored and exhausted.
There we go. You got to get under his skin, get him pissed off. What did he say?
Well, I'm just looking at closed caption, but he does look like he's a little pissed off.
Okay, all right. I'm back to live. Here, let's just.
And this is what's happening in our country.
The pets of people that live there.
What? As far as the rallies,
go back like 30 seconds.
As far as the and it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here? You're going to end up in World War III. Just to go into another.
We're already in World War III.
What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country.
So he's talking about immigration. Two questions later. I fast forwarded 15 minutes to get to this. That question was 15 or 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns.
You know what's crazy is that this is not the campaign question. It was 3 months ago because Biden tried to get Congress to act. Congress didn't act. So Biden took executive action, which none of us wanted because we complained about Trump doing executive actions to fix this. And those actions, we're not even crazy about all the methods that are in it, but they have had their effect. Also, that shit's seasonal and cyclical, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Not going to be Aurora or Springfield.
Sorry, the biggest things right now is the economy. He would do better to talk about the economy.
He would.
He can't help.
But he's stuck on him.
Well, because he made sure that the economy, that the bill didn't get through, so he could have this problem that isn't the leverage that he had now. And now, because of that, he's telling. I don't have a sound about this. He's telling Mike Johnson to keep the government afloat because he doesn't want them to be the reason why. The
government gets shut down.
Yes, yeah.
Don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, They're eating the dogs, the people that
Yes!
came in. They're eating the cats.
Oh, he's
They're
setting up
eating-
all of our clips.
They're eating the pets of the people that live
Look at her laugh.
there. And
Yeah.
this is
She's
what's
so happy
happening
he said
in our
this.
country, and it's a shame. As far
Oh, it's a
as
shame.
the rallies are concerned, as
Rallies?
far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase: make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
The only reason,
just
wait,
wanna
hold on, no,
clarify your
hold on
universe.
now. The only reason Venezuela fell apart is because they invested all their money into one sector. That sector went belly up, and that's the problem. That's a problem with socialism. That is not like. Oh, I would be so tempted to get on that that diversion, and that would not help me in this debate. But what does she say after that? Is it worth playing?
You know what? I don't know. I was bouncing back and forth. So I'm
My
not sure.
dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that.
My
and maybe
dog
that's
was
a good
taken.
thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But
television.
the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that.
So okay, so the moderator is. I had this to say. I put a note for myself to say. We shouldn't expect a lot of fact checking from the moderators in a debate. It's your role to fact check your opponent.
Right, and that's what I said with the Biden when Biden debated Trump. I was like, he just didn't have the ability to be like, no, that's bullshit. Like,
and then you're mad at the moderator for not doing everything for him.
Right.
But here's what he just tried to claim.
People on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken.
Oh, the people on television
used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But
television.
the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again,
she actually is looking at him on the split screen with a sympathetic look. She's looking at him like,
oh,
you're falling for a meme.
There's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney.
Why would you
and
do this? Oh my God.
Liz Cheney.
Oh, we have the moral high ground. We have Dick Cheney on our side. Turns out when his heart was replaced, they put in one of those Grinch hearts that was a real one, and he has a soul now. That's the only way you could sell.
He went from being Darth Vader to
I'm checking out. Let's go back to this shit here.
James Earl Jones.
Wonton destruction, Cenk Uygur. Okay, Daryl Cooper.
We're on Daryl Cooper.
The right's favorite anti-Semite, apparently, right? So me and you, Alan, got into this podcast Martyr made at the very first episodes because we found a bit meandering, but extremely detailed and very well described account of both the Palestinians and the Jews that moved into modern day Israel's history.
Yeah, essentially, he went back to
the pogroms of the 1800s.
Pogroms, yeah, and then it kind of into the Zionist movement and the foundation of Israel and all of that and in between.
Now, when you listened to that with me, did you feel like this man had a side? Because I felt like he was very... I found him uncomfortably not biased. I found him like... I mean, he opens it up with what it would feel like if you and your family had to flee the scene of being chased out of whatever city you lived in because you were Jewish.
Yeah,
and I mean, Poland, he opens up this story, which each episode's like 4 hours long. Like he opens it up with the Jewish perspective. Like this man is not anti-Semitic. He's not a Holocaust denier. He is
not at all. Not at all. And it goes so that series is probably, I don't know how old at this point, maybe 10
I think we found it in 2017.
Okay.
It was while I was earmuffs. It was while I was married to my last wife. Sorry. I am now married to my last wife.
Right.
but you know, one of the bad ones.
The previous one. Yeah. So I remember listening to it, and it was almost sometimes you said uncomfortable. He had a very unflinching storytelling manner where he would tell you what happened, and he would have quotes from people who were there, or people who observed it. And it was very in depth, and at times it was very difficult to listen to because it was some horrible, just the inhumanity of it.
Yeah.
It was
No,
just
you nailed it with inhumanity. Yeah.
just really difficult stuff
And
to take in.
that is the true telling of
Yes.
human history. You
Because
have
that
to
was a
really-
horrific thing that happened. Those
right,
things
but
happened.
like humans are what are the three plot types? Man's hostility towards nature, nature on man, man's hostility towards man, right? Like
Right.
I did that poorly, but right. So
Mhm.
like man's hostility towards man is a through line in the history of humanity. And it is a telling that is uncomfortable because it deals with certain groups of people and I guess depending on the weather, you might choose to be upset if he's touching on something that you hold precious.
Yeah, and I didn't detect any sort of anti-Semitism in
Not at
that
all.
at all.
Oh, and didn't you feel more informed than you ever had been from
Yes.
listening to that?
Yeah.
Like I did not truly understand the full Zionist movement. Every instance of, okay, at this point, things could work out if it weren't for these Palestinians doing this or these Israelis doing this. And like these decisions, almost like the US and Iran's history, right?
Yeah. Actually, that's a very good analogy, yes.
So he's in hot water. The host's name is Daryl Cooper. You may have heard that by now. That's the person we're speaking so glowingly of. Daryl Cooper did an interview with Tucker Carlson. I would take a guess Daryl Cooper is on the right. I don't know if that matters, but he associates with like the Jocko Willings and the
Yes, he does a podcast with him.
yes, Jocko's his co-host now, right?
Mm.
But it didn't used to be, or maybe he does another show with Jocko.
It's another show.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I like Jocko. It's just a little too much for me. Like,
Yeah.
like I appreciate that, but I don't need to run through a wall like all the time, you know? Like,
Right.
I love the radical acceptance and things like that. Like, I like that, but like, it's not all the time. Like, you keep looking. Am I missing anything in the debate?
No, I think we're good.
So this guy went on Tucker Carlson's Twitter show, I think, and he did like a 2-hour interview that I'm not going to watch because I don't like listening to Tucker talk.
Fair.
But it blew the fuck up because at one point he said that, look,
Winston
he's kind
Churchill.
he's kind of an edgelord.
Yes.
Me and the boys. Oh, it's right here.
Me and the boys are edgy.
He made an edgy comment on an edgy talk show.
Yeah.
Talking about history. Sorry, if you're going to stand out in the subject of history, you have to say edgy things. Otherwise, we know all the facts already, right?
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So he made the edgy statement that Winston Churchill is one of the villains of World War II. And then he backed it up with his reasons, but nobody listens to that.
Right.
And it even got to the point where the White House condemned him as a white supremacist, a Holocaust denier, just total bullshit. So he released a 1-hour episode of him responding to that. 38 minutes of it is him actually responding to it. The last 22 minutes is him giving tales of people surviving the Holocaust that are very similar to things that he talked about in his episodes of the show.
I remember some of those stories from the original show.
So, like, I mean, you listened to this episode, right?
Yeah.
Are you still on board with him? Like, I'm not going to take the time to listen to every single one of his shows, but he doesn't fucking deserve this shit.
Yeah, I agree. So it's interesting. So when you reached out to me that you were listening to that episode,
Are you going to do this now? Because I was going to ask you later.
you know what? I'll just do it now. I'll do it now. We're here. I was like, dude, I'm kind of hesitant to listen to that
I was
because
going to call you out on that on the show. I admire your bravery. I honestly admire you so much for saying this right now. I'm so sorry I interrupted. Go on.
so I was like, I'm hesitant to listen to that because I don't want to support a podcast or a person who has become anti-Semitic.
They got you, right?
Yeah, and so here's the thing: is it's interesting because before I get to that, so because I remember very much listening to that initial series. I didn't listen to anything after that. I didn't even know he kept doing pods after that. But I remember listening to that and thinking that was really great. I mean, it reminded me a lot of stuff like Dan Carlin does, where it's just this long form podcast about a very specific topic in history. And you just go all in, you have all the sources, you have all the quotes, all that stuff. Right. And I thought it was really well done. I even had a exchange with him on Twitter because there was some music I liked. Yeah, there was some music I liked in one of the episodes. So I reached out to see who it was.
Hell does exist.
And he told me. Anyways, So when you said you were listening to that, I was like, man, I don't know. And the funny thing is, you asked me like, well, where'd you get that opinion? And I was like,
this is a very none-taking conversation.
and I was like, actually, I think like you had told me at some point, shared
I think
something.
there was some point where I got turned off by him. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, you said that he was on some other show and said some questionable things that you were like, I don't know about that. And so, and then I kind of had heard some of the buzz about what was happening after the Carlson interview. I hadn't heard any of the clips. I didn't know what he'd said on there. And I was just like, similar to like, I like listening to Knowledge Fight about Alex Jones, but I will never download an Alex Jones episode.
Sure,
I don't
me
want to
too.
give him another
Yeah,
view,
yeah.
right? So I was like, I don't want to give this guy a view or a download, even if it's one. I don't want to do that. Anyways, I did listen to it, and I came away thinking what I had thought previously before all that stuff happened.
If he had a chance to be an anti-Semite, he had 16 hours of podcast.
Yeah. That did not.
Here's him talking about what got him into hot water. This is exact clip summarizing everything. This is his rebuttal to it.
Right.
Predictably fell almost exclusively on innocent civilians.
This is about Winston Churchill. So he's saying Winston Churchill and the British government, as a wartime government, right? Wartime coalition government. The people who suffered from their decisions, it fell on
until the U.S. and/or the USSR could be drawn into a predictably fell almost exclusively on innocent civilians until the U.S. and/or the USSR could be drawn into a global war. My position is really quite simple, and if we were talking about any other conflict, I think it would not be particularly controversial. 1. The war faction in Britain refused to countenance peace with Germany despite lacking any capability to change the terms of war on its own.
So that's a great point to go off on a diversion about. Like, what do you really think is going to come from having a negotiation with Hitler, right? And appeasement didn't work for Chamberlain, but the way we've read the history of this 80-year-old conflict, it seems understandable that there was no negotiating with Hitler. And
he would sign a treaty and then violate it immediately when it was convenient.
And I do disagree with him, but I don't think he's an anti-Semite for saying, I think you should have found a way to, like, his opinion is Churchill is one of the villains of the conflict because he seemed to go full on towards war. That does not make you a Holocaust denier or an anti-Semite. That makes you an edgy history teacher, which those exist on every community college you can think of.
2. Germany's offers to negotiate may or may not have been sincere. It is perfectly possible, as after previous confrontations, that a peace deal would simply have been interpreted as further British weakness, and Germany would have become even more aggressive. Nevertheless, I say the Allies had an obligation to try, so that they could at least go into the coming conflict knowing that they had done everything they could to avoid the worst outcome.
I certainly get that 80 years later. That should not be so sacrilegious that you get called something so vile as a Holocaust denier and an anti-Semite.
Yeah, I mean, he talks about, I don't know if it's in this quote or not, or in this clip or not, but he talks about, even one day of peace is if
it's a day of peace. Yeah,
it's a day of peace.
Yeah.
It's better than a day of war, right?
And I've been saying that with Israel, right? It's like, or with Ukraine. I'm like, it's an opportunity for you to rest up too,
3. Germany could not have carried out the atrocities in the East without the cover of a world war in which millions were already being killed.
And now that's just an edgy way of addressing that. So he's basically saying that all of the Holocaust camps, there's a word I'm just blanking on. Concentration camps. If I could just pay attention to facts better, maybe if I went to a place where I learned how to concentrate, then they wouldn't be able to accomplish all of that without the cover of a world war. I mean, that's kind of what we've learned in other words, that we didn't know it was happening until we liberated these camps, right?
Yeah, I mean, there were examples of things being leaked out, and we did have. I think there were some people that had access to information that things were happening. I would say I would classify that again as another sort of edgy history teacher take.
Yeah,
like that's
certainly not anti-Semitic, right?
No,
nothing. The White House issued a statement on.
Right.
There are 2 objections to this. First, the SS started liquidating certain classes of people almost immediately upon the invasion of Poland in 1939. Already in 1939, a dissident German general would write in his diary of Jews being rounded up into barns and shot. Poland was in trouble, regardless of what happened with Britain and France. But World War was never going to change that, and in fact made Poland's trouble immeasurably more severe. In the end, of course, Poland was saved from Germany just to be handed over to our ally, Joseph Stalin, whose stack of bodies put Hitler's in the shade.
Not a bad take.
It's true.
The second objection is that Hitler had always had his eyes set on the East and would have eventually invaded regardless of what the Allies did. And that may be true. Jim Jones and the hostage-taking father may have killed their family.
That takes some explaining. I don't want to spend too much time on it. He opens the show talking. He always has these weird analogies that he sets his stories up with that sometimes go no. Remember when he spent 45 minutes talking about the book Blood Meridian and it had nothing to do with it? That was almost when I stopped listening to the podcast. I love Blood Meridian. Like I love the author, but it just didn't make any points. Anyways,
families, no matter how much they were.
Wait,
appeased.
I can explain that point real quickly. So the whole Jim Jones thing, he did a whole did a whole show about that cult and what happened there, and what he understood was that Jim Jones was on methamphetamines that whole time, and the effect that has on the human brain and the way you interact with people and things, it just escalates tensions. And so he actually looked at case studies of like cops interacting with a person who had taken like their family hostage, who had been on meth and was, threatening to kill everybody, and different outcomes by that happened based on the way the cops dealt with the situation. So cops who were able to kind of de-escalate the situation were often able to successfully end without people being killed. Cops who were doing the opposite.
Listen.
Aw, Pompey.
Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry. Cops who were able to de-escalate
were successful often in bringing those situations to a close without people being killed. Cops who didn't do that, who were escalatory, often the opposite happened. And his belief is that if the people who were interacting with Jim Jones in that situation had been more de-escalatory, perhaps it wouldn't have ended the way it did. And so he's comparing that to what happened here in Germany.
Yeah, that's good. There's like 5 seconds left.
Okay.
But maybe not. And agree or disagree, that maybe is worthy of discussion.
Okay. And that's it. Like, this guy is an anti-Semite and he's a Hitler's favorite historian. They basically are labeling him like Ilyin, the guy in Russia that's like motivated Putin, revisionist history. Just he's part of the right-wing ecosystem. That's fine. He's an edgelord. Aren't we all, Alan? Yeah, right? Me and the boys.
We're always edging. Yeah, I mean, I think that certainly he has some hot takes, right? And
but anybody who's going to categorize him as a racist is just judging him through their own lens and beliefs and biases. I am reading James' note to me directly there.
As we've always said on this show, it's better to bring things into the light, right? Like if you leave it in the corner in the shadows, it festers, and that's not good. So it's better to have the marketplace of ideas deal with the.
And there's people that will leverage that and make things worse. But it's like, I would rather be an open-minded person that has like the intellectual capacity to determine reality out of it than having the closed mind of my belief system. Right. Like when you become a hostage to your belief system. And the people that are criticizing him are within a very strict belief system that says, if you say anything of this nature, you are the opposite of what I believe, therefore the devil. Right.
Right. I mean, the last thing he said there in that clip was it's worthy of a conversation. And I agree with that statement.
Yep. All right. Let's get into elections. All right. Change speed. Is there anything you've seen going on in the debate? Let me back up. I just saw Kamala kind of laugh at something. Oh, wait, hold on.
Bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it.
He's still talking about the border.
They have the right.
Shut about the
President of the United States. You'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4:00 in the afternoon. You'll say, "Come on, come on."
Did you just hear that?
You wake him up at 4 o'clock in the
to the office.
afternoon.
Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
that.
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much
never
proof.
taken
All you
seriously.
have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval.
Oh, that's so funny. You should say that. So the way that would happen is the slate from the state that turned in the okay. Look, I know everybody knows this, but just in case you don't, if the Democrats win the state, they send the Democrat slate to the Capitol to be counted on January 6th. If the Republicans win, there were Republican electors that turn in the Republican electors, which are individual human beings that are alive human beings like me and you and everybody listening. And so when Trump wanted to say he won, they went and contacted the Republican human beings that would have signed as legislators and those as electors. And those people said, oh, no, you lost here. I'm not going to take part in a coup and a fraud. So then they said, shit, the only thing we have left is to come up with fake electors, which is why you've heard that term. That's not a derogatory term. This is a real term. And they got people that were Republicans and willing to sign up for that. And most of those people have been convicted of fraud and sent to prison for taking part in that coup. So great point, Donald.
I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about it.
Biden got more votes.
We need two things. We need walls. We have to have it.
He's all over the
have
place.
Borders. And we have to have good elections. Our elections
This
are
is honestly
bad.
perfect.
And a lot of these
Is this how it's been the whole time?
coming in, they're
I
trying
feel like yes.
to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what
is he even
talking
talking
about? And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
judge looked at it
and said
they said we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's
Because
how
of
we
the
lost.
nature of your case,
If you
yes.
look at the facts, and I'd love to have you do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you.
They said the only people hearing that's going to persuade are people that were already dyed in the wool. You're wasting your breath on the national debate, arguing about things that will not move the needle. Talk to the middle, which I believe Kamala has been doing.
And honestly, the whole 2020 election was stolen thing is not going to appeal to that middle at all.
Exactly.
They're tired of it. They don't buy it. And it's just it's exhausting at this point. Nobody wants that shit. Like move on, bro.
81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And
of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people.
Good line.
So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very
That's
difficult
his word,
time
fired.
processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as vice president of the United States. And world leaders
I'm kind of good. I'm kind of good. You're a little bit ahead of me. Let me know if you see something. Well, was there anything else in that response worth sharing? We're good.
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
He's going off on some tirade about Russian pipelines and Viktor Orban right now. I don't know. I have no frame of reference.
The Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline.
You know what? Why are you talking about oil? We lead the world in oil production. Like, just he's bringing up losers.
He seems unhinged.
Yeah, that's good. That's his word.
Yeah.
He would not be saying that word if he didn't bring it into our lexicon.
Fair.
All right. Let's talk about elections. I've got Mark Elias.
Yes.
You got me to listen to this podcast. Set me up for this.
So Mark Elias is the election lawyer who basically won all of the.
You son of a bitch. I'm not going
Plenty of votes. Because in Trump's view, he's always the winner and the election is always rigged. In 2016, he said it was rigged until he won it. He claimed the 2020 election was stolen as he was desperately attempting to steal it. Now, right up to the January 6th insurrection, Trump's main strategy for denying his loss in 2020 was a barrage of legal challenges. For Democrats fighting off those challenges, the tip of the spear was an attorney named Mark Elias. He was so good, winning virtually every case that Trump's team brought, that even Steve Bannon speaks of him with a sort of admiration. Now Mark Elias is working for Kamala Harris's campaign, and despite all his past victories, he is really concerned about 2024. Election-denying officials are in power in many of the swing states. Mark Elias fears that the assault on the democratic process this time around could be much more effective.
Okay. I feel like that clip sets up pretty much that entire podcast that we both listened to. Do you want to talk a little bit about it? I kind of thought this was
So the Times Daily had an episode a couple weeks back about what was going on in Georgia with their elections board, where they had that 5-member panel.
Yeah.
And
it was a 3-2 majority of non-election deniers, 1 quit. Now it's a 3-2 majority of election deniers.
Right.
And then Trump said, we've got 3 bulldogs in Georgia that are fighting for us. And he called them all out by name, which is a really weird fucking thing to do at a rally.
Yes, very strange thing to do, especially since that it's very mundane what that elections board's job is to do, which is.
I've got a clip that talks about that.
Okay.
Yeah, save that.
Okay. So yeah, it was so Elias had been the guy who had been in all the legal fights after the 2020 election that the Trump lawyers, like Giuliani et al.
At the lawn care.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, the total
4 seasons.
The 4 seasons total
landscaping. Yeah.
Total landscaping. Yeah. So he was the guy who his firm, and he was the head lawyer, was the guy that defended all those cases, and as was said in the clip, basically, defeated all of them. I think it was like 61-1, something like that. So he is now he's now doing the same thing for Kamala Harris's campaign. And he is anticipating what the Republicans might try to do post the 2024 election to do something similar, especially now that in places like Georgia, they have changed these people. The people who kind of were the dikes in the stream that stopped this from happening.
You're not supposed to say
that. A lot of those people had been replaced by Trump loyalists at this point. So the people who are just part of the machinery of how voting gets counted and how the process gets moved forward, a lot of those people that sort of saved the day in 2020 have now been replaced by Trump loyalists who obviously have an interest in doing the opposite.
Right. Okay. This clip kind of describes what those people's role are in a normal campaign. Every election we've ever had up until this one, basically. This one we're about to go through, this guy who's an expert at fighting on Trump's terms to try to get someone who's lying about the election to win is saying, hey, I know how this guy's going to argue this. I've fought it for him. And the ground is set. The board is set for him to have legal arguments. I'm rambling here.
Equivalent to saying at a football game that we're going to give the scoreboard operator the opportunity to investigate for themselves whether a touchdown was scored, right? I mean, the job of the certification boards in these states is normally described as mandatory or ministerial. Their job is to take the results that they have and put them on state-approved forms to sign those forms, and then everyone takes a photo together and celebrates democracy. I mean, the history of the certification process in the United States was part of the reinforcement mechanism of democracy. It is part of what I sometimes call the pageantry of democracy, where after an election is hard fought, the local election officials at the county levels on a bipartisan basis come together and congratulate themselves for a job well done, and then sending those forms onto the state, where then another group of bipartisan officials self-congratulate themselves for a job well done again. A bigger certificate is filled out with maybe now calligraphy, and then it goes to the governor, and then a bigger form yet still is filled out, signed by him, and that definitely has calligraphy, and it almost certainly has a ribbon. And those forms get sent to the House of Representatives and the National Archivist, and then those are put in a wooden box and are opened to great fanfare by the vice president. And it is that pageantry of democracy that takes the unofficial results and through reinforcement mechanisms has everyone feel like, whether they are candidate won or lost, it was a job well done.
I mean, the metaphor of the scoreboard operator being a referee is pretty powerful, and that is essentially what they're trying to do with that Georgia board. Is suddenly they can raise their hand and say, "Yeah, I'm not so sure. I think we need to check this again," causing them to miss dates to file, causing that to be sent back to the legislature, which, if controlled by the Republicans, would obviously go in one direction rather than the other. And so that's very concerning.
No, you're good. I think I got one more clip from that show. Oh no, that was it, huh? Was that both? That was both.
So one of the things he mentioned, which I didn't remember, because Big Mike, I didn't know who the fuck Big
Mike Johnson.
Yeah, I didn't know who Mike Johnson was then.
I like our version of Big Mike.
Right. I didn't know, really who he was. He was the guy that organized like 126
So when we used to do this show back then, we would be like, these people in Louisiana are trying to tell people in other states what to do.
Right. But we didn't know it was.
And
Big Mike.
that's he's the senator or the congressman from Louisiana.
Yeah, the House member. So he organized 126 other House members to try and get election results thrown out in like 5 different states, maybe 7.
Yeah.
He was the guy that did that, which is now maybe not so surprising that he's suddenly the Speaker of the House when nobody knew who the hell he was.
Yeah, except then he's basically Trump's bitch, because he's like, you gotta keep the government open. It's like that goes against everything that I've previously stood for. Yeah.
They just had their closing arguments.
There's no way. They said this is 2 hours. Is this not 2
90
hours?
minutes. 90 minutes.
Okay.
So they just had closing arguments, and just based on what I read as far as closed captioning, Kamala's looked pretty good.
Is it over?
Yeah, it's over.
How is it over?
It's what time is it?
It's only been an hour.
Oh.
Well, we got to come back from half with them talking. I'm going to rewind a little bit, and we'll play some of their closing arguments.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 90 minutes. That's weird.
Well, maybe it's 90 minutes, including commentary. Have you heard the term sane washing going around?
I hadn't until you texted me about it earlier.
So,
I'll be honest.
Have you noticed it, like, as a concept?
Yes.
You asked me if it was opposite of gaslighting, and I was like, I don't know. Gaslighting requires me to like sit down and really think to be able to like, because people throw that word around so much.
Right.
So
it's
like gaslighting isn't real, Alan. That's just something you make up to make me feel bad. All right.
No, it's the way that news outlets like the New York Times sort of sanitize things, crazy things that Trump says, and make them seem like reasonable. There was a Twitter account called the New York Times Pitchbot that was very good at satirizing this.
Yeah,
where like they would just take a news headline and spin it to the most ridiculous angle to make it appear like, this is a thing we should be talking about. This is very
like
normal.
The left eating itself, but it's a little bit of, and it feels like there's a heavy dose of copium in this as well.
Sure.
But like my understanding is people on the left are mad at the New York Times because the owner of the New York Times wanted to have a sit-down interview scheduled with Biden, and he snubbed them. And then ever since then, he's like, well, I like Trump, which I find really hard to believe, but it does explain a lot of the, so here,
I don't think that the I like Trump thing happened, by the way, but he might have some resentment towards Biden.
Well, so one of the ways that I've seen this manifested is like, they'll they'll correct Trump's headlines in quotes to
Mm.
what he meant to say, rather than putting the little sick,
Right.
and putting things in brackets.
Right.
Which I get.
The
That's
actual
crazy.
quote isn't what he actually said.
I feel like that's carrying water for him, right?
I agree.
People should read his deranged statements and have to see a little SIC period. What does that mean? And the quote in brackets. Like that should be confusing. And you should go, what the fuck is this candidate actually saying to me, right?
We think this is what he meant to say.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, thank you for explaining that. Yes. I also have another, I just have some random notes before we get to our next clip. I heard an idea that poll numbers have been manipulated. So the people on the right are saying that, oh, well, Democrats didn't really have a bump after Kamala got her, did I say it right?
Yeah.
I think I did. After Kamala got her endorsement, she didn't get a bump after the campaign or the convention.
The DNC, yeah. She did.
She did. You're right. But it may not have been as big as they had hoped for. And there's an explanation for that. So there are at least 9 Republican aligned polls. I'm reading my note. 9 Republican aligned polls that are considered low quality. So like polls are graded, right? Think about polls. Like, I mean, have you ever thought about this? Like polls exist to be sold to media companies. Polls just aren't done for the goodness of their heart, right? Like there's in time spent in that. You have
the
to
for-profit
right.
thing,
There is something done like so New York Times Siena College poll is done so that they can sell that to anyone who would like to contain their poll in their news that day, right?
Right.
So there are high and low quality polls, and there are 9. So you can rank you can rate those polls. There are companies that say like, well, this poll doesn't ask good questions, or their questions are in this way. There are 9 low quality Republican aligned polls that flooded the zone. Shocker. We're talking about Republicans and flood the zone, right? After the election. So that, like, if you want to make it look like the polls aren't reflecting what reality is, you can bring down the average by putting in, I'll put it this way. When I worked in the copy center at Staples, we wanted to have a high average ticket. Well, one of the things we sold was 9-cent copies. And if you sold one 9-cent copy, that gets rid of every good sale you had that day. Because now you
down your average
9 cents and divide the whole transactions by 9 cents, right? Including the 9-cent one. So like I would tell customers, or I would tell cashiers, don't ring up if someone makes one copy, just give it to them. Like it's not worth
it.
That number. Yeah. So like these Republican aligned polls were the equivalent of a 9-cent copy, trying to bring down that average. Now I know what you're thinking. There are bad Democrat aligned polls. Yes, there is one. There is a poll called the Clarity Poll. There is only one, because as bad as Democrats are, somehow they don't play that game. I'm not saying they don't play dirty tricks. The devil works hard. Democratic Party works harder. But they're, in terms of fucking with polling, they only have one where they fuck with it like that. You can think of it kind of like the Vegas line, right? Like that doesn't mean that that's truly a reflection of the likelihood of them winning. That's just the likelihood of how can we get people to gamble on each team.
Right. And they're trying to even out the money on both sides.
Exactly. Trying to bring in people from both sides. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trump has a rambling threat of imprisoning election workers, which, dude, I realize how long this first half has been. I have to play this.
Okay.
So what I have is someone reading it. But so this is the New York Times summarizing it. Trump had a Troth Central post where he starts it off with cease and desist, and then goes into his all caps, Troth Central post. He's like, me and many lawyers and respected legal minds have said this, and but this is what it comes down to. This is from the New York Times headline edition, which I am a fan of.
How Trump's been increasingly threatening to imprison people he says are working against him. He's vowing that, if reelected, he'll use the power of the government to punish his perceived enemies. It's rhetoric he's used before, but recently he's expanded his targets and been making more explicit threats. In the last month, at rallies and interviews and on social media, Trump has called for Barack Obama to be subject to military tribunals. He's threatened Mark Zuckerberg with a life sentence for donating money to expand voter access in the 2020 election. And he said that election workers, along with lawyers and donors affiliated with the Harris campaign, could be prosecuted for potential claims of election fraud this fall. When he was president, Trump repeatedly pressed the Justice Department to prosecute his political adversaries. Those efforts largely went nowhere. But if he wins, his allies have already developed a blueprint that would put the DOJ more directly under the control of the White House.
So like when I hear all this, in my mind, I'm thinking like, hey, maybe we should, talk about this from the perspective of like these policy documents and these things and this history. But like, this is all just vibes anyways. That's what he's going for anyways. Like, here's a thought. Why the fuck should anybody be entertaining electing somebody who talks like that?
Yeah, that sounds pretty fascist to me.
Yep. Or you know what? Authoritarian. Is that more palatable to people? That
Sure.
don't like that word?
Sure. Go with that.
Kitty's drinking water. Speaking of prison, the sentencing decision came out on Friday. I don't want to wait till our Friday show to talk about it.
It's being postponed till after the election.
Yeah, 2 days before Thanksgiving, actually.
That's nice.
I don't like it, but I think it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree with that as well.
That one judge would be one. There's two thoughts, right? And this is what it's like inside my head. This is the tension and the balance we were talking about earlier, right? So that judge should not be one person having an outsized impact on the election. Counterpoint: Trump brought this shit on himself, and he delayed everything via his legal strategy to get it to this point. He just hoped it would be later than this, or exactly now. And the judge made the decision exactly how he wanted.
Yeah, I think about the FBI in Clinton's campaign in 2016 coming out with that stuff like a month before the election or whatever. That was sort of just, maybe there's something here. We don't know. There might be some smoke.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some fire.
Right.
And clearly, obviously, in retrospect,
1,000 states voters in 6 states, right?
Yeah. And so, I can understand why a judge doesn't want to put his thumb on the scale.
Well, and he also like scolded Bragg in court, saying like, you guys, because Bragg the prosecutors, he was like, you guys aren't recommend. He was like, hey, just before we leave today, I just want to be clear, you guys are not telling me to make my sentencing before the election. And they're like, no. He's like, are you guys really sure about that? He's like, yeah, no, you do what you want, judge. So like basically the judge was like, well, it's not on me then.
Right.
And so, I kind of get that.
Well, I think Bragg realized it as well. I mean, maybe he didn't want that in his legacy either. So,
yeah, again, I think it's the right thing to do, but I also think it's not quite right because it's not like 34 felonies. I mean,
he was convicted by a jury of his peers with, they went through the process. Any other American certainly would not.
Yeah. Hey, I got a promotion coming up. I don't want my boss to find out about it. Right.
That wouldn't happen.
Right. Yeah. Doesn't this indicate to you that it might be a harsh sentence? That's reading too much into it, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was today's Daily. They were talking about whether or not it'd be likely that he would see jail time. They kind of went back and forth. I think the reporter kind of said he didn't think it was likely to be very much if there was any. It would be months, weeks, maybe. I don't. To me, that's not really that important. He's a
I agree because he's not gonna deal with it.
He's an almost 80-year-old.
It is a state case, so he can't
pardon himself for it. I mean, he's an almost 80-year-old man. For me, the point is more that he was held accountable by a jury of his peers. He was convicted. He is now a convicted felon. So he can't go get a job at UPS. So that matters to me.
It's the little one. It's the little detail.
It's the little victories. You gotta enjoy. Yeah.
I don't want to take the time to play this clip because I'm looking at the time. Alan Lichtman. Who's that, Alan?
Alan Lichtman.
You don't like him. You know him. He spells his name like you. He's that guy that has his roulette system for picking presidents.
I don't like
re-election for 40 years.
Yeah, I don't like him.
He now is convinced that Kamala Harris is going to win. Do you want to hear it?
Sure, why not?
Okay, well, one last clip.
I still don't like him though.
Oh yeah, I don't like him either. He's on Cuomo's show, so it's just a hate fest here.
And are you nervous? You bet I am nervous. All right. Always, particularly. Well, let me be your lodestar of concern. Can you wait until the debate and then make the prediction? I did not want to wait to the debate because my big message is it's governing, not campaigning, that counts. And the keys gauge the strength and performance of the White House party, independent of the events of the campaign. And I wanted to prove that once again in my prediction.
Who is it and why?
It's going to be a path-breaking victory, the first woman president, Kamala Harris. And here's why. Under my 13 key system, which, as you said, has been right for 40 years, it takes 6 of the 13 keys to turn against the White House party to predict their defeat. At a maximum, the White House party this time loses 5 keys, 1 key short of the 6 needed to predict their defeat. And that's why, based on a system that's worked for 40 years and has nothing to do with my own political preferences. After all, I picked Trump, predicted Trump in 2016. I'm now predicting a path-breaking Harris victory.
Has anyone ever won with 6 keys against them?
Never. It has never happened since I've been looking at this, and it goes all the way back.
Which is back to the 1800s.
Abraham Lincoln.
So stupid. It's like people that say they can't lose at roulette. I mean, there's also like octopus who always win at the World Cup, like picking the team.
Sure.
But like I'm sorry, in the age of Trump and the way all of our norms are out the window, I don't think that getting 5 out of 6 is like a deal breaker, you know?
Yeah, I think you probably, if you wanted an AI to figure that out, you probably need more like 1.5 million data points at minimum than
It's
13.
It's got a system.
Yeah.
System. All right. I know this is old news now, but like it's still there were promises made, so time has gone by, and I want to ask about it. So remember when Trump had that campaign worker shove that person that worked at the Arlington National Cemetery?
Yes.
And they were like, hey, look, you know, that person had a mental health episode, and our campaign worker was in the right, and we've got video footage and we'll release it. Don't you remember that?
I do.
It's been several weeks now, right?
Yeah, nothing released.
So I'm gonna ask you a question. Which do you think will happen first?
Okay.
Do you think that they will release the footage from that confrontation? Or do you think Iran will retaliate from Israel killing the Hamas guy like 3 days ago?
Iran.
Data sports fans.
Be on the beach.
And I'm singing just for you, covered in sequins.
In the canyons of your mind, I will wander through your brain to the ventricles of your heart, my dear. I'm in love with you again. Cross the mountains of your chest. I will stick a Union Jack to the forest of your cheek. Through the holes in your string band.
What is with that timing? I'm closing my door while you're closing yours. Welcome back. I think you muted yourself. You're muted.
I did. I fixed it.
Okay.
I was saying it was like we both came at the same time. That's always a good feeling.
And you know what? I liked it better when I couldn't hear you. Jesus. God. Okay, should we rejoin with the last little bit of the debate?
Sure.
Okay.
And distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris.
That was those were his words. That got there because of him doing it. He's been going around talking about his love letters to Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
He's been doing that. That's his like he brought that to the light. Like that's from his rallies. Like those are from his he talks about that.
Mm-hmm. He does.
Yes, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it. That's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It would.
We all know what that means, right? Like if Putin wants to fuck with our elections, he knows if he endorses someone that helps the other person.
Yeah, it's opposite,
Like any Republican candidate with a fucking brain would not tout Putin's endorsement of his opponents. Like, yeah, the idiots that like you will hear that and be like, that's right. Anybody with a brain, like the people that are supposedly undecided, are going to go, hey, wait a second. I seem to think that might not quite be what you think it means. And maybe I don't think that you're as smart as that second ago I might have thought you were.
Yeah, Putin's over there playing poker, man. What do you think?
The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective.
Biden approved it.
And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic.
Okay, so just point of clarification.
Was that not
I thought it was.
Because there's more?
Yeah, it went to
They're
commercial.
still talking?
They are. It went to commercial. And I thought that was the closing argument.
They both got a glass of water and they came back.
I guess, yeah, but they came back. Usually, don't they just go straight? I feel like there's usually not. I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, they are still talking. At first, I thought maybe they were just replaying stuff from the debate, but no, this is still going. It's still live, so it is going to be.
It's fun to listen to her debate against the opposing team.
Well, I think
what I mean by that is like in 2020.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
She was pretty feckless because she had to try to out liberals.
Right.
And say things like, I don't like fracking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we need to be more woke and defund the police.
And I've said that on the show that I thought that, you know, one of the reasons she was so ineffective in that primary was because she was trying to be something she's not. She is not this super liberal. I mean, it's funny.
I mean, she is to the extent that she won an election in California.
Yeah, but
which you have to be. You do have to be. You can't not be.
In a statewide election, she did win. Yes, she won as a DA and she won as a Senate senator. But so yeah, I think that people trying to paint her as super liberal, that's just not who she is. She is still a
But
communist.
that's why I laugh when that's his. So he didn't choose to go with flip flopper,
Right.
Because like we
You know
talked
what's
about this, right? We're like, you can't do flip flopper and too liberal. You have to do one thing, and he chose to go with too liberal. It's like, well, good luck with that.
It's funny because I think it was Some More News, which is a very left wing podcast,
Yes.
and they were like, we wish she was as liberal
Right.
as you.
Yeah,
guys
exactly.
are
Yes.
saying
Yeah.
she
Yeah,
is."
exactly. Right.
Right.
Well, I
right.
mean, I made a post about it yesterday where it was like Trump was like, if she wins, Israel will not exist. It's like,
I don't
Kamala
think that
Harris,
means what you think it
all,
is.
all,
Yeah.
all of the electoral votes.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is fun to see her run against or debate against a conservative as opposed to try to be the liberal in the group.
I agree, and also it's fun to see anybody debate Trump who can actually be effective on the debate stage, as
I mean,
opposed to
from what we've dropped in on, it does appear that she's been successful at that.
Yes, yeah.
And I mean, you've been reading it more than
I think
have.
it's like
I mean, is that how it's looked?
It does seem that way. Yes.
Okay. God, I don't like getting this excited about her winning. It's just so much better than him winning, right?
Right.
Like,
Yes.
all right.
Alice in Wonderland.
There we go. We're good. That's him trying to say Alice in Wonderland. That was all. This is a quick one. We're in Best of the Right, ladies and gentlemen. Here, this is Donald Trump talking about that famous book by Lewis Carroll, Alison in Wonderland.
You know, they think it's like Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland, where
twice
everything's so beautiful. It's not beautiful. It's really bad what's happening to our country.
All right. Well, and that was pretty much the story of Alison in Wonderland, was that everything was beautiful, right?
Maybe he's just a huge Elvis Costello fan, you know?
Allison. I don't like that song. I never liked that song. Allison.
Nailed it.
He forget. I did, huh? I even got the raspiness.
You
right?
did it. Yeah.
I'll never forget, man. One of my favorite lines in any episode of the Larry Sanders Show was when Elvis Costello was backstage and he was trying to stop having to talk to Hank Kingsley. And so he tries to pawn him off on Elvis Costello. He goes, Hank, have you met Elvis? And he goes, hi, I'm Elvis. He's like, I don't think so. Because Elvis Presley, you know.
I don't think you are.
Hanks, look around, Cafe. That show is underrated. I'm going to go back. I think that I'm going to petition really hard for that to be our next sitcom that we watch. It was such a good show, man. Have you watched every episode of it?
I have not.
Start putting it on as your go to bed show. It's a good show.
It's on Max, yeah?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Of course. There's always on Max. Yes. Max, the television network that's always existed. HBO is dead to me. They went with the porn network name. They didn't go with the home box office is a bill. There must have been bad blood, right? The only way that happens is if someone's like, no, fuck.
That's got to be. I think actually that makes sense. Yes.
So this is not a demented man that has bad memory problems that, you know, is the only elderly person left in this race. This is just a normal human being trying to be president.
I can't imagine New Hampshire voting for him. Anybody in New Hampshire, because they're watching right now, but anybody in New Hampshire that votes for Biden and Kamala, I really
and he hit the hard cam. You know, he did the hard cam.
And
if I didn't have a show title picked out already, we call it the hard cam.
Hard cam.
Call her a comrade, Kamala, because that's what her ideology is. But you know that she did something after decades and decades and decades. It was Iowa, the first two, Iowa, New Hampshire. And
honestly, we don't have to play anymore. The whole thing was him saying that he forgot who his opponent is.
Right. He forgot.
Like when you're running for president, the number one thing is who are you fighting? Okay, got it. Like,
Biden, definitely.
How come that gets no pub, right? Like they hit that button so fucking hard until homeboy dropped out. And this guy can say literally the wrong opponent and be like, he forgot. It's only been a couple of weeks of this person that he needs to not lose to.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, even the Times had an article today, front page, about Trump's age and how it's.
Yeah, I bet the way they put it was heroic aging American, you know, because of the Times with their sane washing, right?
It was very.
Wait, are you actually giving me an example of that whole sane washing concept?
It was relatively impotent, I thought.
Well, the one where he called so remember that clip that I played on Friday about how he was they asked him a question about childcare and he like couldn't just give a direct answer.
Yes.
The New York Times, when writing about it, said Donald Trump discussed how he would address childcare costs in a jumbled answer. That was the most they addressed how deranged that was. He said in a jumbled answer. It's like, you mean we
talked about tariffs?
Radio and tariffs?
Yeah.
And then that was a Miss America answer.
That was Miss America. People don't have maps, and that's why.
Yeah, the Iraq.
Yeah, and the Iraq. Yeah, people just need more access to maps. I think.
Yeah,
that would help.
You were going to say something. Did you? No, you didn't find the.
No, I tried to pull it up, and it's
okay.
refreshed. It's not on the front page
No worries.
anymore. So yeah,
no, we keep it moving. Keep it moving.
Yeah,
good instincts. I forgot his opponent. I don't want to play this clip because I think everybody's heard it by now. There was a clip that was taken out of context by the AP for a headline, basically the opposite of what we were just talking about. So after that shooting in Georgia last week, the AP made a headline that was like, Vance says we need to get over shootings or get used to shootings. And the full context was, I hate this. There isn't any way this is going to stop tomorrow. In that sense, we have to get used to it. But what we should do is my proposal, which is arm teachers have, safer environments. Like we can go down a couple branches there about whether that's the wise choice or not. Just forget that for the sake of the context of this headline. The AP was shit for just isolating that part. That said, if I were running for vice president, I would be sure not to use those words in order and just say the first part and the last part.
That's fair. That's probably a
he
better
chose
strategy.
to, in the middle of a good point, say we should get used to it.
Just get used
to
it.
What? A good vice presidential candidate doesn't do that.
Doesn't
Maybe
say
when
that.
you're crafting your perfect tweet, you delete, and then post it.
Yeah.
This guy killed it on Twitter. That's how he got into office and big money backers like Peter Thiel, but like people he was a lawyer for. But other than that, hillbilly elegy. Really common man.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally
So like, I don't know,
common
people were like the AP's shit for this. It's like, dude, you are taking the wrong part of this. Like you should actually be perfect.
They were trying to sensationalize it, but also he should not make those kind of flips. Like, don't give him that ammo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should just go back to being like, so how long have you been
working at the donut shop?
Yeah. I'm just gonna think of something else.
How did donut holes work?
Yeah. How long have you been planting these flowers for? Oh, okay. I guess that was going to be the answer I should have expected.
Just take some of those things with the sprinkles. Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't even get it that good. He's like, these things, this confetti on top that seems to be edible, some shit like that. And then Walls like made sure to go to a bakery and they had some video. It was like, pie people. It's like normal. What?
Totally normal.
Oh, I don't like nutmeg and cinnamon. All right. Bloody. Oh, this is important. So we went from sort of, media malpractice, also nitpicking presidential candidates being perfect with their language, vice presidential. This is so you could say they took that out of context. This is a very short clip. Maybe you'll say this is out of context.
And getting them out will be a bloody story. Should have never been allowed to come into our country. And
so maybe he's not talking about the part of Project 2025 that I'm not supposed to believe in,
where they deport millions of people.
Yeah, and like just logically, you're like, that involves camps and people working as guards in morally horrible situations. Like, why are you taking people that wanted to like work for the country and making them do these like horrible moral decisions? And then you go, that can't be what he's talking about. Maybe he's talking about like pulling a tampon out, It's probably like it's better to believe that, right?
Oh man,
I'm just trying to say here. I was crude. I'm just saying let's give him the proper context. Like you're right. You're right. The media really takes these moments and pulls them out of context. So what was that? What did that one mean then?
Well, bloody. What was the intention behind that particular?
That was a weird adjective, right?
Yeah, it was odd.
Yeah,
oddly, placed.
Bloody an adjective?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because it's describing. Okay, I got it. And you know what? I got a word game for you at the end of the show.
Oh, fun. Okay.
Yeah, you sit there on your high horse, Alan. Of course. I've got a media roundup of how people actually reported that.
The bloody?
Yeah, the bloody stuff. Brought to us by Buzz Burbank.
Oh, fun. Okay.
And undocumented immigrants would be, and I quote, a bloody story.
That's right.
And you've heard him use that before. From another article, Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump threatened to jail people involved in unscrupulous behavior related to voting in the 2024 election, suggesting without evidence that the election could be stolen from him, and prompting widespread condemnation from election officials who said such rhetoric could provoke violence. Trump's remarks, made in social media posting Saturday night, Bob just referred to, represent the most overt signal yet that he won't accept a result in November if he loses. That's 2 punches. Let me give you the third punch here from Rolling Stone magazine.
Oh, Jesus.
Killed them all. Trump reportedly pushed for firing squads and hangings of gang members while he was in office.
So that story goes on to say, from the Rolling Stone one, he wanted to have a massive public spectacle with firing squads and gallows, and that there would be bodies stacked in the streets. Now, this is from a source, and Rolling Stone's been way off the mark a lot. They also haven't.
Yeah, I mean,
it also does fit the man's priors.
I was going to say, I mean, if you think about how admiring he was of is it Duterte in the Philippines,
that's Duterte,
who has essentially done very similar. He's just like, yeah.
Or the homeboy in Ecuador. Well, I
Yeah.
guess that would have been more recent though. So while he was in office, he was probably talking about Duterte. That was almost certainly who he was talking about. Yeah,
That's who he. Yeah.
he did that he did that with gang members and gays.
Yep.
Just two totally similar demographics. But that was Trump wanted to do that to gang members and illegals.
Illegal immigrants. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he has often leaned into the sort of his love of authoritarian figures. It's just and that comes with that. That's what you
No
get.
matter what your stance is on the law and order of the trespass into the country, which I do take more seriously than just the word trespass. I mean that in the word trespass. I live in the South. That's why I got a drawer. The no matter what level of seriousness you want to give that, this is a man drawing the conversation towards violence and carnage unnecessarily, right? And if you think about violence, there's something about it that it leads to more violence, right? I was watching The Sopranos. I think I can spoil The Sopranos. In season 2,
It's been like 20 years.
Yeah, in season 2, Tony's sister shoots a character. I'll leave that blank. But it starts with that character punching her, and you're like, whoa, you just punched that woman. And then she shoots him, and you're like, I'm not for domestic violence anyways, but what do you think is going to happen when you push someone? There is actually a line. You can keep arguing. Even I've been in horrible relationships where we argue way too fucking much. But you don't hit someone and not think that they're going to do something. And especially if they are weaker than you, right?
Right.
What this man just brings violence into the rhetoric. And I'm concerned for that.
Well, I mean, and rhetoric matters. I mean, we've seen what rhetoric can do on January the 6th.
Where people had a tour of the Capitol,
right? Yeah, where
they just happened to tap that little cop on the top.
Just a little bear hug. Yeah, I think it was a bear spray. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, the rhetoric does matter, especially when you're the fucking president of the United States or you're the candidate for being president of the United States. That does matter. So when you say it's going to be bloody, when you say all of these things like that, that's problematic. That's the most civil way to say it.
Bloody. Yeah. When the New York Times covers that, how do you think they're going to put it?
Oh, I don't know if I have a New York Times pitch bot in me.
They'd probably be like, Donald Trump proposes policy to get gang members off the streets.
Yes, that seems about right. Yeah.
They want the horse race, right?
Well, it's in their interest to have a horse race, right?
Same with the polls, right? Polls
sure
want to get people betting or feeling good in the way.
But so the narrative of the 2016 election was that media was so willing to give Trump all this airtime because it got ratings. And nobody took it seriously as a campaign that could actually win the presidency. And
even he was kind of shocked by all
right.
that.
And then it did, and they're like, "Oh shit, we fucked up." But here we are.
Yeah, well, they thought that the more God, I did not use this word that much before he started using it. The more deranged he sounded, they thought that would be better for their campaign. And it turns out there was just a lot of people in this country that were willing to find common cause with somebody who was saying the things that you considered deranged, right? Now, that was 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think we've made a pretty good argument on this show before about how our vibes shifted. Like now when the alt-right tries to make those arguments that used to get people going and Kekistan all
Yeah.
4chan and all that. Like I mean, I hung out there. I was on 4chan. You know, when I say that, like do not mishear me, you know. It doesn't slap like it used to, the way the prior generation used to say.
Yeah, it doesn't. However, there is still a streak within the American population that is very unsatisfied with the current status quo and does want change and sees him as representing that.
Sure.
And that was,
and you better not ignore that.
What I always refer back to is the thing that always blew my mind was that there were people who voted for Obama. Voted for Obama twice. And then Trump. Yeah, and it was like, how did you go from there to there? But the Venn diagram where it meets is change, right?
There's an answer for that though, and I recommend that book that I read. It's a quick read. It's "Hit 'Em Where It Hurts" by Rachel Bitecofer. She's a Democratic strategist, but it's good to hear a Democrat that had the I said that like a cover for her. Like, look, despite that, she's a Democratic strategist, but despite that, it's refreshing to hear somebody on that side talk about taking the offensive in a actual meaningful way instead of the moral proper way. It's like, look, you're fucking losing with that shit. Like, don't lose your morality, but have a taste of that. Like, you need to go for the jugular. Like, nobody gives a fuck about you being polite. Do it in your polite way, but you know, pivot and redirect, pivot, redirect. That's how the game's played, and you're not playing it that way, being like pivot, redirect towards pronouns, Vivek Ramaswamy. I give up. You get what I was trying to say.
No, I do. But all I was saying was that there is still people feel like they're not happy with the way things are currently, so they want change. So the question in this election is, can Kamala sell herself as that change enough to win that narrow minority in the middle that she needs to win in those swing states to win the election? Or can Trump do it? And Trump, you can say he already had 4 years. If he was going to be the change advocate, he already would have. And you can say Kamala was VP for 4 years. That's not the same thing as being president, but I understand you could make that argument. So that's kind of, in my mind, that's the fulcrum in which the election tips one way or the other.
I think that's wise of you. Yeah. Because, okay, so what did we learn from the double haters, or the people that were that's not what double haters are. Sorry. People that were two-term Obama voters, two-term Trump voters. Those were people that wanted to vote for the outside candidate. There's like a 15% of independents, I think, or maybe it's 15% of the electorate that they're just by default going to vote for the outsider. And who is the outsider in this election? I think that's Kamala Harris.
I think so too.
Because Trump became establishment. The biggest attack at him is that this term he's got the backing of the establishment with the Heritage Foundation writing Project 2025. And then when people point out what's in Project 2025, they distance themselves from it.
Right. I never heard of it. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, to try to look more like the outsider candidate. Now, that might work, but somehow, I mean, in our lifetime, the Democrats have become the establishment party. The Republicans stopped being the center right-leaning moral majority party, and they took up the mantle that the Democrats lost when they won that phase of the culture wars, right?
Yes.
Like, culture wars have like 3 parts. We're in the third one. So if like the Carthaginian Wars, the first one is, during Clinton, right? With the guy, the Speaker of the House back then, Newt Gingrich,
Newt
and
Gingrich.
then during Obama, and now we are under the Trump one, right? So this is, if it goes Carthaginian way, someone's getting a bunch of salt, and I lost the plot long ago. Should I go on to the next clip?
Let's move on. Yes.
Okay. So when I talk about people on the right, kind of the alt-right, right? About halfway through one of my interrupting rants, which I never got to my point. Well, I guess my point was that Kamala's the outsider. Okay, I can do good here. Can I stop? So the alt-right is in many ways past its time. And the way that I was describing them earlier as being like ineffective in this election is because of the vibe shift, where in a lot of ways, like it or don't, the female perspective has a lot more sway over how we react to things.
Interesting.
And being anti-woman and anti, just all this stuff, like you're gonna have a hard time being the 2016 Keck guy and landing punches without just looking like a dweeb, kind of, for lack of a better word. And because our vibe is like, hey, these girls, like, they might bother you, but like their points are valid. And your humor was funny in 2016, but it got old and it's now tied to a bunch of negativity. So
so Ben Shapiro talking about wet ass pussy just doesn't really
100%
kill in the room
so
anymore.
This is a killer from that time period. Is this Nick Fuentes guy who kind of like grew up within that, right? And he became who he is now. And he's the white supremacist who has an ethnic ass last name. So this is Nick Fuentes. This is a bit of a rant. I was listening to this in my car with the windows down, thinking I should roll them up.
We do stop the steal. Why did anyone go to?
If Trump says that they lost by a whisker, right? Remember in the debate that we listened to earlier, he was like, I was being sarcastic. Well, the people that voted for him, that rallied for him, that believe in him, like Nick Fuentes, who like had dinner at Mar-a-Lago with Kanye West with him.
Right.
That's a weird fact.
So
that guy is saying, why'd we do stop the steal if you know you lost by a whisker?
January 6th. Why is anyone sitting in jail? Why did anything bad happen to anybody? Why did everyone get censored? Why is everything bad that has happened to the people that are involved? Why did that need to happen if you're just going to walk it all back and say, oh, I lost? Well, it would have been good to know that. Why did we do stop the steal? Why did it?
So that was worth it, right?
That was worth it.
Yeah. Sorry for the terrible setup. I will be better.
I would never have heard that if you did not play that clip.
So he's kind of been off Trump's dick for a while, but he still is like, well, I don't like Harris.
Sure. I can see that.
Yeah.
But that was that's actually quite jarring given the way Trump's tried to position it.
Yes. Yeah. And now keep that all in mind with him saying I was being sarcastic.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think I want to play this clip. This was Vance talking. It's an old clip of Vance talking about how on January 6th, they should have counted the alternative
electors.
But I already talked about that. I had a whole rant. That was like an hour and a half ago, probably. All right. Should we get into best of the left?
Let's do it.
We like this Hoff Matthews guy. Big fan of Hoff Matthews. Here he is interviewing Nancy Pelosi. This must have been an old interview from, I think it's 2004. Yeah, 9/9/2004.
Oh, wow.
So
20 years
2 days ago. Yeah.
Congresswoman Pelosi, the prisoner you've been keeping chained.
Just you see a little bit of de-aging and you think about those boobies. And like, that's some wrinkles. I'm okay. Okay. How about this? When I'm that age, all right. Let me explain.
When you're driving around your golf cart at the.
Let me explain.
Yeah.
When I was like 19, I remember like talking about a girl I liked around my uncle and being like, I don't know. This might sound weird. I said to my uncle, it was like, I guess I shouldn't be talking about this 19-year-old like around you. You're, like 45-year-old uncle. Like, this must be awkward. Like, and he was like, no, I'm not. Like, don't be so weird. I like women my own age. And I remember being 19, being like, what, 45? Like, I don't mean that. Like, come on. Even when you're 45, 19's got to be pretty awesome, right? And here I am sitting at 41 being like, I like women my own age a lot more. Like, I work at a college campus a lot. And every time I'm like, okay, yes, I'm not a liar. Like, pretty is pretty, but like, I could not imagine a man my age being such a fucking creep. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
So like maybe when I'm 64 or whatever she was in this, that might be attractive.
Oh, I'm 100%.
Especially when you know she's got the milkers under there.
They be fucking
Up in your basement has issued a statement saying, quote, "Please, Nancy, let me go. Please, I'll do anything."
Sorry, did I set that up with way too much weird shit? Did you hear the question?
No.
You said there's a man in your basement.
Oh, okay. Yes. I forgot.
Congresswoman Pelosi, the prisoner you've been keeping chained up in your basement has issued a statement saying, quote, "Please, Nancy, let me go. Please, I'll do anything you want. I'm not going to tell the police. Please, just let me go." What's your response?
Sounds like a man who's pretty desperate. I thought it was a desperate statement. But he knows, I think, that I don't take anything he says seriously.
Congresswoman Pelosi.
That's really well done.
That guy kills it. Did I get weird? I'm sorry for that.
No, it's
my uncle into something like that.
It's not taken. We're here for it.
All right. Nameless sent this in. Here is Tulsi Gabbard talking to America's favorite Holocaust deniers talk show host Tucker Carlson. I tried to say it backwards. I think I got it right.
I think
so. Tulsi Gabbard, noted former Democrat and current endorser of Trump. And you're like, no. She was an RFK endorser. She just encouraged. No. She was Trump's debate partner practicing against Kamala. Did you know that? She was.
I did know that. I saw that on Monday.
That was kind of funny because he looked like somebody that'd been practicing for Tulsi Gabbard, who scored points on Kamala Harris. She knows how to debate Kamala Harris. I don't think she knows how to be Kamala Harris while you practice, though.
That's probably true.
Given evidence of what we played earlier, right? You want to touch base on that again? Let's see what was that going on in the debate here.
Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving.
You can say what you want. There was a manufacturing recession under your presidency before COVID in 2019, before COVID.
There wasn't. They didn't lose 10,000 manufacturing jobs last month either.
Really?
No, that's not true.
Okay. Yeah. Like, can you say why you know that? I don't.
Because I look at the jobs report.
Okay. Right. That's a good point.
In Mexico.
That's a good enough answer. It's like never a good point.
In many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people.
You can't bring up China because Joe Biden continued the Trump tariffs on electric vehicles.
Yeah.
And all he wants to do is increase them. I think we're pretty good. They went to commercial. Was that the end of it?
I think that was pretty close to the end of it. The only thing I would say is, like, having glanced up at it a lot, there were a lot of times where she was just sort of like had a grin on her face and looking at him talk.
And it was an optimistic. I mean, I had the sound off too, right? Like, dude, so they keep doing. So I watched college football on the quad screen where it has 4 games on, right? Because I got one of them big ass TVs and each screen looks like a big screen back in the day. Right, like the shit Biggie would talk about.
Right, yeah.
And screen leather green,
popping, yeah.
Money green leather sofa. I can't rap. All right, and I was feeling really good about it too, and then I tried to rap. So I'm watching on the big screen with the 4 games on, right? So I only have the audio on one of the squares, right?
Yeah.
And there's political campaigns and all the other 3. And anytime it's an attack ad on Harris, if you have the sound off, it doesn't look bad.
That's funny.
You just try that. It's really weird. And I think a lot of America is consuming their media in that way.
The same way. Yeah.
And in fact, when it goes to commercial, you change it. So you're only seeing the commercial with the sound off.
Right. Because you move back to the game that's
got
audio. Yeah. Okay.
You want to go to the debate?
Ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her.
Let's hear his
As a prosecutor, not putting themselves first.
Wait, hold on. As a prosecutor,
a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever ask them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now.
That's a much better line than just being crazy and making you scared.
Yeah.
Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back.
Wait, I don't need to hear more of it because it's all
So-
just like president words.
Right, but
that's a good message.
I just want to point out when she says she'll be a president that has the most lethal military force in the world, that is not a super liberal talking point,
Right.
And so
Yeah.
when you try to
Oh
put
yeah,
her
yeah.
in
Like
that,
even I wasn't repulsed by it, and I don't want to like her.
right, and when you want to put her in that box, that just doesn't fit in that
Doesn't
box.
fit, and that's the box they chose rather than flip flopper.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I jumped ahead into Trump's.
Okay.
For it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation.
Do what?
We're a nation
Probably close
that's
the border.
in serious decline.
Probably.
We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughing. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me.
Again,
We're
that's not
laughed at all
a
over-
win. You're talking about people like Bibi, people largely
Right.
unpopular, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, the people that came around the world to visit you have not like.
the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader.
So Bibi, who doesn't feel like we're funding his war enough,
Right.
is like, I don't understand what's been happening to you. He sounds just like what's the old actor that sounds like?
I know who you're talking
I
about.
get this from Rob Spivak.
Yeah, I can't. Think of
It's
his
okay.
name.
It's okay.
don't have any idea what's going on. We
All right,
have
let's skip ahead.
Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
Wait.
Oh, that was
Okay, that's the end. That's the end.
way
It's only 30
to
seconds.
the Taliban.
Oh, okay, hold on. What?
See me. They call me. We're lapped up in a third
think he's talking
world
about the
war,
withdrawal
and it'll
from
be a
Ukraine.
war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry.
It's just
I
fear.
rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to
On his withdrawal.
Afghanistan. What these
And the
people
lesson
have-
of the withdrawal being the subject of the issue, not the war for 20 years, is the lesson the politicians take from that. Completely lifting that from our friend Julian Anthro, but that's the fucking lesson, right? Like same thing with Vietnam, and like it took us 40 years to try that shit again, right? Like you do not give up on a failed war because you'll be famous. Because like who's responsible for Vietnam? Nixon. I mean, excuse me. Damn it! I just fucking did it. Like, Johnson, Kennedy, right?
Right.
Like we were there as long as we were because of their added contribution and commitment to it. I mean, Nixon campaigned as a get you out of Vietnam candidate, and it took him into his second term.
Yeah, and the lasting iconic image is the helicopter pulling away from the building.
And ours, deservedly so, is the final images
the
from
planes taking
Afghanistan.
off.
Yeah, but
People-
the lesson to the politician is you don't want to be the one in office.
Yep.
And oh wait,
Don't let it happen on your watch.
Yeah.
done to our country, and maybe
like
toughest of
30
all is
seconds.
allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our
Strong.
ABC News
It
presidential.
is strong. Like if that's what connects to you, that was like I can imagine the people that I know that like his talking points saying that he hit everything that mattered to them at the end there. Those things just like that's just you're not like give me some substance on that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
It feels
there
I
is an answer to each one of those. Oh, the border was bad. Well, they tried to fix it and you stopped it because
Right.
it was better for you for it to be fixed under you. And like, sorry, we liked it being going through Congress, not just because I don't like the president being a king and having executive actions solve things. I don't like it because it's not lasting if it doesn't go through Congress.
Right. Yeah, it's as long as the president's in office. Yeah, I think if so, obviously wasn't able to watch the entire debate, but it sounded like the drum that he was beating pretty much the whole time was immigration. And I
Which is
think
crazy. That's an old like as the polls have shown us from how they rate what's important to us, that's dropped out of the top 3. It was number 1 when he decided to commit to this campaign strategy.
And it's
Why not
anymore.
pivot?
Yeah. And there's plenty of ammunition to make all kinds of attack ads about how he killed that bill. So that's just not a winning strategy, I don't
Yeah.
think.
Have I talked over you way too much?
No, we're good.
Did we set up the
Culture wars?
No, no, we never played the Tulsi Gabbard video.
Oh, we didn't.
I have a very
Oh, you know what this is? This is her saying that it was stupid that they are on their high horse about Dick Cheney endorsing them. I already made my. I already had my.
We already covered that. Yes.
Okay. And there was a funny point that if you go to Kamala Harris's website, she finally has stuff under her issues section. I heard this on the Reason Roundtable. Under she wants to strengthen and reduce healthcare costs, and the editor.
How do you strengthen health?
You got it. The editor of the show, because these are all editors. It's the roundtable of editors in the magazine, and he was like, "What does strengthen and mean grammatically in that? Are you talking about strengthening healthcare costs, strengthening the reduction, like strengthen and reduce?" Yeah. Okay. I'm so glad you got it.
Not sure what's a That's funny.
Okay, this is I thought this was going to be our last show of the episode, but this is our last show of the Best of the Left.
Last clip.
It's bit I've been so excited about playing this. Sometimes a show title falls in your lap right before we air. I found this. It's now 3 hours.
Oh, this is the clip you were talking. Okay.
This is show title clip.
I'm going up to my granddaughter's birthday.
This guy?
Yeah.
Joe Biden.
He's
the president. That's wild.
Wow.
Right?
Weird.
Why is there a picture of Rudy? Okay, we're good. So they're asking about what he's going to be doing tomorrow on September 11th when you all are listening to this. And he says he's going to his granddaughter's birthday.
New York. Then we're going to watch a debate. And tomorrow I'm doing 9/11.
You heard it here first. Joe Biden did 9/11.
Okay. That's hilarious.
You never saw that coming, did you?
Oh, I did not.
Oh.
I did not. That's very funny.
It's another battle in the culture wars. Oh, not the culture wars. They're worried about a culture war. Culture wars. Stop with the culture wars.
All right, you'll apologize for a 3-hour show. We did cover the debate live.
We did.
All right. I got a few items here that I think I want to hit all of.
Okay.
Venezuelan gangs. That came up in the debate. I said I've got something that's going to talk about the truth of that story. Do you still listen to every episode of Knowledge Fight? Did you hear this?
Yeah, I did listen to this. Yes.
All right. Well, then we both can talk about this. This is about 2 minutes long, maybe 3 minutes.
Yeah. So for a few days, Alex has been.
So there's been this thing going on, and I've seen it come across my desk from the DMs y'all send me. And I'm like, yeah, that seems real. There seems to be a violent apartment complex in Aurora. Oh, okay. Let me just paint the full picture here. There's a suburb of Denver that we all know because of the Batman shooting called Aurora. As someone who grew up spending his summers in Denver growing up, do we all just pretend like Aurora is a nice town? Like, yeah, I bet Aurora has apartments that have been taken over by gang members. Oh, Venezuelans. Oh, I just got something that jumped in my mind here. The FBI report that came out about Russian influence wanted them to focus on immigrants and especially, new immigrants and people of color. So like walk right into that one. But you know what? I don't live my life based off what the FBI tells me, but I do remember that when I hear your major talking points that seem to come across from like an organized campaign, right?
I was talking to somebody this week and somehow the Hells Angels came up and I was like, oh yeah, I just recently read that book on Hunter S. Thompson. And then he was like, they're heading out to Colorado to deal with that gang problem over there.
Well, let's see what they're really dealing with then.
Reporting on this story out of Colorado about how Venezuelan gang has taken over an apartment complex and the police can't stop them. It's like a full-on seizing of territory in Alex's version of the story, and it sounds really, really scary.
Yeah.
In the real world, it turns out that there's this complex in Aurora, Colorado called the Edge at Lowry Apartments. And after the police looked into some of these salacious claims that were going around, they found that a gang had not actually taken over the apartments and turned it into their headquarters. The police said, quote, "We've been talking to the residents here and learning from them to find out what exactly is going on, and there's definitely a different picture." It appears that there are some gang members who live in the complex, possibly, but they weren't running it and extorting all of the other people there. What it appears is that there's a shitty landlord who owns the complex, and they've been exploiting the immigrant tenants and have been blaming the shitty conditions of their units on exaggerations of gang activity.
What?
Denverite spoke to the people living there and reported, quote, "We learned the apartment buildings have been in terrible shape for years and still are. Many residents say they're not scared of gangs, instead saying that they fear the owners of the complex." I'll just read to you here from this Denverite article. Quote, "For years, residents of several of these buildings have complained about rat, mice, and insects, concerns over crime, and poor treatment by management. All that predates the arrival of tens of thousands of Venezuelan immigrants in the Denver area. For the past 2 years, Aurora has been working to get the property owners into compliance with the law," said Jessica Prosser, Aurora's Director of Housing and Community Services, at a press conference in August. "Many newly arrived Venezuelans and other Spanish-speaking immigrants were placed into those apartments by nonprofits. Those homes, as uninhabitable as many of the units may be, are among the few that are affordable to newly arriving immigrant families." So while it does appear that there is a gang presence in Aurora and maybe even some crime at this complex, what seems to be happening is that the landlords in New York, who are already facing legal actions from the city because of their negligence and mismanagement, they are making these stories up. It appears that they've decided to use the immigrant population they are slumlords over as a scapegoat, and because a lot of the right wing is fueled by xenophobia and racism, it's working. And when I call those folks slumlords, I'm quoting the mayor of Aurora. I'm not. That's not a characterization.
So like this whole story is a cover from the slumlords trying to deflect from their negligence.
Yeah, don't look at me. Look at the boogeyman over there. That's what that is.
And even if there's any truth to it, yeah, it sounds like these people would rather side with the gang members than get no help from you.
Yes.
Shocker. This is exactly how the mafia works. Like,
that's weird.
Wow, you're telling me gangs took advantage of a situation where the people felt like they weren't being.
Yeah, there was a vacuum of
there we go. That's the word. That was it. The word vacuum covered all of that. Yes.
Yeah.
There is a very funny story that's been going around that if I were to guess, if I were to make the election bingo, I would have told you that you need to chug your beer and then open a new one and chug that one too. If Donald Trump actually said Haitian immigrants are eating your pets.
And it happened.
It happened. Here, this is the story about it. I'm going to try to talk over this guy's editorializing before it because I'm doing my own editorializing. But they're talking about the truth behind it. I swear there's not him talking at some point. Maybe not.
And here's Ted Cruz saying, "Please vote for Trump so Haitian immigrants don't eat us." Then I saw J.D. Vance posted this, and then Donald Trump Jr. posted this. J.D. Vance goes, "Months ago, I raised the issue of Haitian illegal migrants draining social services and generally causing chaos all over Springfield, Ohio. Reports now show that people have had their pets abducted and eaten."
So a place where people are all, there's already unrest about the migrant population there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then somebody was like, "Hey, here's what we could say. If they could say this guy fucks a couch, I bet we could say that these guys eat ducks out of ponds."
By people who shouldn't be in this country, whereas our borders are. And then Don Jr. goes, "Borders are. Kamala Harris invited thousands of Haitian migrants to flood into America. And now a small town in Ohio is being torn apart because of what Kamala did."
Trump Jr. shared that.
But I had to go to a primary source. So I looked at the Springfield News, and it says Springfield police say no reports of pets stolen after viral social media posts. So the Springfield police say whatever this is, it's all a lie. So where is this coming from? Well, right here, this account, End Wokeness, posted this like thing that was on some.
You spend any time on Twitter, you're familiar with End Wokeness
message board.
Because Elon makes sure it's in your suggested.
And then they said, based on this, there's a mass migrant invasion of Springfield, Ohio, and they're eating everybody's cats, and they're eating the dogs and ducks, and it is chaos there, except it's all false. But that's not stopping the right-wing influencers like Benny Johnson.
Oh, who's that? You mean the guy that worked for the company that got paid to spread the misinformation
from Russia
by the Russians and they said the campaign is supposed to target campaign agendas around disparaging migrants and making conservatives feel uncomfortable about it, right?
Yes.
Make videos that say and make posts saying thousands of Haitian migrants terrorize Ohio, eat family pets, cats, dogs, and ducks. Third world.
Actually, word for word from the FBI document was threat of crime coming from people of color and immigrants, including new immigrants. Target audience, white Americans representing the lower and middle class. I don't know Springfield, Ohio's demographics, but I'm willing to guess.
I think you'd be pretty safe to guess that.
Except it's not true. It's false. Don Jr. literally posts photos of himself, though, in the past, hunting ducks and killing ducks all across the country and the world.
Fuck yourself.
Then there was a hearing where Marjorie Taylor Greene brought it up today and said that there are Haitian migrants taking over towns and eating people's pets. The Trump campaign then cites it in their press releases.
He doesn't have the good sense to not say it at the debate.
But folks,
he literally got a meme into a trending meme into the debate.
The entire thing is false.
Just by nature, don't ever go after a trending meme for a time capsule, right?
Yeah. Let it simmer for a bit and see what
It's actually number 5 listed on the Russian influence operation from the DOJ's indictment last week. The Russians wanted disinformation to be spread. Threats of crime coming from people of color and immigrants are one of the topics.
All right. I did not watch this whole video before. And
I think that was enough.
To say the things that I was going to say, so I'm good. Yeah. I think, what else do I have in the culture war? Well, this is pretty funny. This was from today. Eric Swalwell responded to Marjorie Taylor with that, and he said
this. The chairman's
just the beginning of it is funny to hear. He says, like, what the hell is this?
What in the hell is this?
He
the chairman tweets, protect our ducks and kittens in Ohio because he goes down some crazy rabbit hole, completely debunked that aliens are eating pets.
Have you seen this?
No, it's funny that he says aliens though, as opposed to
wait till the end.
Oh my God. Are you okay, Mr. Chairman? You're tweeting this nonsense. I don't know why you would do this. I hope you're okay. I don't know if the aliens who are eating your ducks are in the room with us right now.
Yeah, do you understand how bad you fucked up to make me share a clip of Eric Swalwell? And Eric Swalwell, that's rich coming from him talking about falling for a foreign influence campaign. This guy was fucking some Chinese spy named Fen Fen. No, Fang Fang. Fen Fen was the drug, right?
Right, Fang
Fang. Yeah. Like this man fell for a honeypot, and he's actually right. Like he's right. I'm gonna overlook that and point out how wrong you are here. And then he took that into the fucking debate, and we happened to drop the needle on that moment.
Yeah, that's wow.
Yeah, I agree.
You can't make this shit up.
I don't have to play this clip. I'm looking at the time. Melania dropped an unnecessary. Okay, fine. I will play this. Melania, did you see this? Melania is questioning the assassination.
I don't think so.
Horrible, distressing experience. Now,
doesn't this look like an AI?
It does.
The silence around it feels heavy. I can't help but wonder, why didn't law enforcement officials arrest the shooter before the speech? There is definitely more to this story. And
she's reading.
It sounds like an AI.
No, you can see her eyes.
And we need to uncover the truth.
Then there's a book that says Melania as it ends. I don't understand.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Do we think that's real?
Dog, that was... Yes.
That was the real Melania Trump.
Melania Trump is posing questions in a new dramatic produced video about what happened on the day of husband was shot. Yeah.
That's pretty wild, man.
Yeah. Well, it's good that she wants to have answers. Acting director of the Secret Service is doing an investigation. The House is doing an investigation.
As they should.
Yeah. They have established bipartisan task force to investigate the attempted assassination. Like, good point. We're doing it. I mean, not me, but the people you're talking to.
Right.
Okay. I kind of hinted at this in a statement I made. I must admit that this is cribbed from a clip from The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. So they've meant a lot to me on over the last few years. I don't always agree with them. And I think that's the point, right? And I bet most of our listeners feel that way about us.
Sure.
And I think that for the same reasons, I never miss an episode. So I'm going to play like a minute of this. This is a really long video because I forgot I was still doing my screen recording and I started recording my cat. So forgive if anybody who's watching this, I apologize for the distraction.
It's hard to convey sometimes, you know. That's why I get so annoyed when people say, you're closed-minded. Like, no, we're not. You have no idea what you're talking about. We are open to everything. We just follow the evidence. You're closed to the evidence because you have a true belief system. That's closed-minded. This is the model that we follow, right? It's like we're open to, and I could be convinced of anything if the evidence is proportionate to the claim. That's it. Yeah. That's all it takes.
And the world is amazing enough.
It's amazing.
Reality is.
Natasha does not want to be on this. I guess I made that point already, huh?
Yeah, but I think it bears repeating. I mean, you know,
bears repeating now.
Yeah, I mean, so you do have to keep an open mind and be willing to. I mean, the whole scientific method is okay. You have a theory and you prove it with experimentation, and then somebody's like, "Well, no, I don't think that's right." And then
and Hamilton and not Hamilton, excuse me. You know, it's a good thing I interrupted, huh?
Well, I mean, so that the whole way that we advance scientifically is somebody's like, no, I don't think that's quite right. I think this might actually be a more elegant solution to that problem.
Yeah.
And then we try it and we're like, oh yeah, that actually works better. And
Right.
then that's how that happens. So
Right.
you have to be open to that. Otherwise you don't progress.
And Madison, mostly as the architect of our Constitution, was willing to, and the other founding fathers, was willing to apply that method to governance. And that's what we've been doing. And that's what you're open to, you know, to live in this kind of a society. You are open to people like Trump. And in many ways, I'm probably way too optimistic. I feel like everything that we're seeing, that we're struggling through, is a healthy democracy in its most stressful environment. But it's annoying and it sucks, but we are fighting it. And he can do so much to try to undermine it, but I don't know that we can't. I'm willing to bet on America on that one. Like, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like Tom Brady. It's like, I don't like that guy, but I'm not betting against him. And I'm not gonna turn and say, yeah, I'm gonna bet on Trump undermining this whole thing. I'm afraid of it.
Yeah.
But I and it's probably too optimistic, but I think that we've got a strong enough system that it will not break under this. But the thing that I remember also is that, like I said earlier, there's people that didn't live before the Patriot Act, or, you know, us living post that decision that happened under Nixon. We all live downstream of Jackson, and it was a different republic prior to that. And, you know, that's when we started having generals as presidents and things like that. That's it. That's the last clip of the show.
Okay.
Rather than ending the show, I want to test something on you.
Okay.
Because I don't want the first time that I try this to be when I want to do this as a game to end our episode with Simon King tomorrow.
Okay.
So I want to present a game to you. You better not be looking down on the sheet. I haven't blacked any of this out. Stop looking.
Okay.
I'm going to bring up a new game.
Okay. Okay.
The title of the game is Less or Fewer.
Okay.
So this sort of came up in the show recently, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let me find. I was supposed to find an internet countdown. I'll just count down from 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay.
Okay.
So you have a timer. So there's a little bit of a ticking clock to you have to answer, Alan. Right.
Okay. I have to decide whether it's less or fewer.
Yeah, less or fewer. Yes.
Okay.
All right. So 15 items or 3, 2, 1.
Less.
Oh, wrong. It's fewer. How could it be less? There are 100 Nemos in a school of fish. A shark eats 15 of them. There are now 3, 2, 1.
Less.
Fish. Fewer. Jesus, this is gonna be
why?
Fun. This is gonna be great. This is gonna be great. I love it. I got it into the show clip. This will be actually. I lied. We've played this before, but we've never played it on 9/11, and
Okay.
most all our best
Barack Obama
into this on 9/11.
I had big part of 9/11.
Which part?
Not being around, always on vacation, never in the office.
Why do you think Barack Obama wasn't in the Oval Office on 9/11?
That I don't know. Would like to get to the bottom of that. Barack Obama had big part of 9/11.
All right, man. Drive safe.
Cheers.
Cheers.
That was fun.
When a guy's banging you,
Y'all let me in this damn house.
oh, how about that?
Come in the name of peace.
LMFAO.
So what in the world is this?
Trump's pee-pee.
Why would you say something that stupid?
I come without explanations or solutions.
I'm a very sexy lady, cat turd.
I will not suffer this harlot.
How great! An anti-American Marxist.
Ted Cruz, go fuck yourself.
Read the news.
China is asshole.
God bless the United States.
Podcasting.